Audiobook by Fate's Reader. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel for more epic series. Drop your recommended novel below. We love to know what you want to hear next. Tales of Herding Gods. Chapter 571, Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique. In the True Dragon's Nest, Qinmu finally achieved what he wanted and comprehended all of the dragon language inside it. Elder Qinghuang was a divine dragon, so he knew all of the dragon language. His abilities were extremely high, to the point that Qinmu didn't know what realm he was exactly. However, to be able to become the master of Green Dragon Palace, one of the 4 great celestial palaces of founding Emperor Celestial Heavens, he should have been stronger than Saint Woodcutter or King Yama. The combination of the stars was known as the Celestial Heavens, but separately they were known as the 5 palaces. Green Dragon Celestial Palace ruled the 60 stars of Eastern Heaven, White Tiger Celestial Palace ruled the 27 stars of Western Heaven, Vermilion Bird Celestial Palace ruled the 39 stars of Southern Heaven, and Black Tortoise Celestial Heaven ruled the Northern Heaven. In the center was Heavenly Emperor Celestial Palace, which ruled Heavenly Emperor stars. Besides it, Green Dragon Celestial Palace was in the lead of the other 4 great celestial palaces, so one could well imagine how strong was Elder Qinghuang. He didn't decipher the technique of the true dragon lord like little dragon Jiang Miao, who went through word by word. Instead, he directly transformed all of the writings into techniques and imparted them to both of them, from the simplest to the hardest. The main technique was called Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique, and it utilized all of the dragon language to reverberate in the corporeal body and primordial spirit with the dragon roars. The method of vital qi, divine art, and body refinement cultivation were all hidden in the writings. To a cultivator, this technique raised all of their aspects. What concerned the vigor of the vital qi, the exquisiteness of the divine arts, and the strength of the corporeal body. These were the most top-notch techniques that were on the level of Dao realm. If Qinmu could comprehend everything completely, entering the path of technique would not be a difficult task. This was the first time Qinmu had seen a technique on such a level, and it was even complete. The 14 writings of Dao Sword were incomplete because the stars in the sky were fake. The 14th writing couldn't be comprehended no matter what, so the 14th sword could never reach the realm of path. Great Thunderclap Monastery's Rulai's Mahayana Sutra could only cultivate the frame of mind to the realm of path, while the cultivation realm could only be cultivated to the 20th heaven. Once one reached Brahma realm, there were no further techniques. Little Jade Capital's technique could allow people to cultivate to the realm of God, after which it was broken off. Heavenly Saint Cult's great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures had extremely high attainments in the divine arts, but it also had no techniques after becoming a god. Because there was a gap in Eternal Peace Empire's inheritance, there was a natural inadequateness. All the techniques in each and every one of the sacred grounds were lacking. Supreme Emperor Heaven might have complete inheritance and have numerous gods and devil gods. Qinmu hadn't seen a technique that could allow a person to reach the realm of path. Neither had he heard of it before. Even the true god of Supreme Emperor Heaven could only cultivate one aspect of themselves to the realm of path. If they wanted to cultivate all aspects to the realm of path, they needed to comprehend and train. The techniques of Supreme Emperor Heaven couldn't let anyone cultivate to the realm of path. The one technique which could reach the realm of path straightaway was Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique. By following it, one could cultivate the ancestral dragon primordial spirit and raise their comprehension of the dragon's divine arts to the realm of path. Their comprehension of the corporeal body could also reach such a level, making it a heaven-defying technique. It surpasses even my Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. Qinmu couldn't help sighing ruefully. When he bade farewell to Zhehuali in Supreme Emperor Heaven, he had fallen into the state of technique entering the Tao in which he had revised all the divine arts of Overlord Body 3 elixir technique and reached the most perfect state. However, it was a pity that he got interrupted by a bunch of devil experts during the process of fusing the divine eyes. Even so, he had taken the first step of technique entering the path. But that was different from path realm technique. Technique entering the path could allow his corporeal body, primordial spirit, and divine arts to reach the state of a young true god. The path realm technique was a level higher and could allow one's divine arts, the corporeal body, and the primordial spirit to reach the path of realm. On top of that, it had a technique after entering God realm. Even though this technique is good, it's more suitable for dragons to cultivate. If I cultivate Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique, my achievements will definitely be inferior to those of Zhang Miao. To me, only the most suitable technique for me is the best technique. Qin Mu pushed the weight off his shoulders. Even though the Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique was good, he still chose Overlord Body 3 Elixir Technique over it. However, Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique was still very useful to him. He could borrow the path of refinement within it to refine his corporeal body, primordial spirit, and divine arts and perfect his Overlord Body 3 Elixir Technique. This method of refinement was called 8 Voices of Ancestral Dragon, and it was an extremely overbearing method. It was separated into Sticking Voice, Killing Voice, Seizing Voice, Absorbing Voice, Guiding Voice, Spinning Voice, Hammering Voice, and Refining Voice. Qin Mu immediately tried it out, and the circulation of his vital qi vibrated with a strange rhythm. Sticking Voice burst forth, and his vital qi became incomparably sluggish, vibrating at an extremely high frequency. In an instant, Qin Mu felt a marvelous change happening in his corporeal body. His blood became sticky and astonishing booms would burst forth when he circulated it. The circulation of his qi and blood had become even more boundless, like an avalanche rolling down snow mountains. When his qi and blood circulated to his palm, it became as big as a palm leaf fan. Circulating vital qi in his palm gave off loud explosions like thunder rumbling. He used Sticking Voice to refine his blood vessels. Then after one round, he dispersed it, feeling refreshed. Qin Mu then executed Killing Voice. It trembled his consciousness, refining it to become incomparably pure. He executed Seizing Voice, and his 3 souls almost got scattered. Seizing Voice refined the 3 souls, Absorbing Voice refined the 7 spirits, Guiding Voice refined the heart, Spinning Voice refined the spirit, and Refining Voice refined the Tao heart. Qin Mu refined them one by one, gaining some understanding of the 8 voices of Ancestral Dragon. He then scattered his vital qi in high spirits and used it to construct the circulation path of his Overlord Body 3 Elixir Technique. His next step was to incorporate what he'd learned into his own technique. In front of him, vital qi created various circulation paths which led to a form somewhat similar to a human. But looking at it in detail, one could see a complicated structure. It dealt with Qin Mu's spirit embryo, 5 elements, and 6 directions divine treasure. His vital qi circulated in these divine treasures and formed an incomparably complicated system. The path of his vital qi in every divine treasure was different. Not only that, if one looked at every organ in his body, one would discover that his vital qi had a different path of circulation in his heart than his kidneys, and the path of circulation in his legs was also different from his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. It was truly extremely exquisite. He tried to incorporate 8 voices of Ancestral Dragon into his vital qi circulation. Surprisingly, there were not many places he needed to change. He just needed to utilize Guiding Voice when his vital qi reached the heart, Sticking Voice when his vital qi reached the blood vessels, and Spinning Voice when his vital qi reached the spirit embryo. It was all as simple as that. He altered his technique in True Dragon's Nest while ignoring everything in his surroundings. Elder Qing Huang and Zhang Miao were immediately attracted by the activity, and their gazes landed on the circulation diagram in front of him. "Stop looking," Elder Qing Huang said with a shake of his head to Zhang Miao. "You can't learn it. This youth is very wide, and he's like a monster. His foundation and wisdom have reached a step that you will never walk onto. Let me talk to you about the marvel of Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique to answer any questions you might still have." "Maha!" Zhang Miao replied in a soft voice. Elder Qing Huang smiled at him. "You don't have to be scared of me." Zhang Miao picked back his courage and transformed into a human. He stood obediently on the side. Elder Qing Huang explained to him Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique. He tried to simplify it in case the youth didn't understand. The lecture just went on for 4 to 5 days, until Qin Mu finally incorporated 8 voices of Ancestral Dragon into his Overlord Body 3 Elixir Technique. When he executed it and his vital qi circulated, It would naturally give off 8 voices of ancestral dragon to refine his corporeal body, primordial spirit, vital qi, and Tao heart. Even when he executed his divine arts, 8 voices of ancestral dragon operated and refined them. Qin Mu slithered through true dragon's nest while executing divine arts after divine arts. Dragon roars rang out endlessly, and the power of the moves became stronger and stronger. He couldn't help becoming delighted at the sight of it. Xianxia. He pulled out 2 pig slaughtering knives and swung them to execute midnight battles across the stormy cities. However, the moment he did so, the 2 knives in his hands shattered into pieces from the vibration. Qin Mu was stunned and took out a bamboo cane from his taotai sack and stabbed out with it. The bamboo cane turned into fine powder. The power of 8 voices of ancestral dragon is too strong. No random spirit weapon can be used with it. He took out a sword pellet, and flying swords rushed out like flowing water to form into a long knife. Qin Mu grabbed it and pulled to the sides. The long knife separated into 2, and he executed every cloud has a silver lining. The knife lights crossed each other, and the power become was even stronger than before. It nearly severed the pillars of True Dragon's nest, and Qin Mu hurriedly pulled back his move before he demolished the dragon's nest. He examined the 2 long knives, then threw them into the sky. The long knives separated into flying swords and swirled around him. Qin Mu examined them in detail and let out a shaky breath. He said with excitement, "Luckily, my flying swords were refined well. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have any weapon to use." He sank into his thoughts again. Besides 8 voices of ancestral dragon, there were other divine arts in the technique from which he could learn. Ancestral Dragon's Supreme Mystery Technique had numerous divine arts with unpredictable changes, and they could even be changed into Buddhism divine arts. Some could even become divine arts of Tao sect or even be executed as divine arts of the devil path. Qin Mu felt that numerous divine arts could also be changed into sword skills. If treated as knife skills, they would also possess great power. There were also a lot of extraordinary points about the body movement divine arts, and the pupil divine arts were also very astonishing. The deeper Qin Mu studied Ancestral Dragon's Supreme Mystery Technique, the better he understood how extraordinary it was. He hated himself for not being a dragon and being unable to unleash the divine arts of this technique to the extreme. When he awoke once again, he saw that Elder Qing Huang and Zhang Miao were both no longer inside the true dragon's nest. He hurriedly flew out and saw Zhang Miao cultivating Ancestral Dragon's Supreme Mystery Technique. The youth had transformed into a sapphire blue dragon which slithered around as he executed his technique and skills. He used the fighting skill from Ancestral Dragon's Supreme Mystery Technique, and in just a few short days, his cultivation and abilities had increased drastically. His change was more than just eye-catching. Qin Mu sighed. He saw that numerous young men and women were observing Zhang Miao training by the side, full of cheers. Qin Mu walked to a young girl who was about the same age as him. She was probably only a year or 2 younger than him. He asked her with a smile, "How do I address this little sister?" The young girl's face instantly turned red and she said, "My name is Xianxia. Don't call me little sister though. I'm already 300 years old." "How old are you?" Qin Mu flushed and looked at the youth beside him whose age was similar to his as well. He probed him. "This brother. I'm 637 years old this year," said that youth. Qin Mu gave a dull grunt. The young men and women in the village all had terrifying ages. A middle-aged man said with a smile, "I'm 20,800 years old." Qin Mu no longer asked for anyone's age. His spirit suddenly rose though, and he said with a smile, "Have you guys been to Eternal Peace? I'm the cult master of Eternal Peace's Heavenly Saint cult, and we are in need of people currently." Elder Qing Huang raised his fishing net and walked over with a black face. "Don't even think about my village. I've already imparted you the technique, so you should go. Senior, now that Supreme Emperor Heaven is fighting for its survival, even my master has gone to help." Qin Mu hurriedly said. "Xianxia, see off the guest," Elder Qing Huang ordered. The young girl named Xianxia burst forth with incomparably terrifying vital qi. She restricted Qin Mu in a split second, making him unable to move. Xianxia stretched out her other hand to grab Jiang Miao and said, "Both of you, don't move. I'm going to send you guys 1,000 miles away." After she said that, she spewed out a breath, and clouds instantly filled the sky. It sent the two youths flying far into the distance.
Such terrifying cultivation? Somewhat shocked, Qing Mu shouted out, "Senior, I still have things I want to say." Suddenly, the cloud vapor dispersed, and they landed on a mountain. Qing Mu was slightly stunned. He looked for the small mountain village, but he could no longer see it. Before he could even finish his sentence, he was sent 1,000 miles away by the young girl that looked the same age as him. Maha! There was envy on Jiang Miao's face. You will also be so powerful. Qing Mu let out a sigh. Suddenly, the true dragon's nest came flying over right in front of them in an instant. Qing Mu's face changed drastically. The true dragon's nest was incomparably heavy, and he rushed to avoid it, but then saw it pause before landing gently on the mountaintop. Qing Mu let out a sigh of relief while filled with astonishment. Was the true dragon's nest thrown by Xianxia as well? Isn't her magic power too strong? I can only execute 200-300 pounds of flying swords for a distance of no more than 200 miles, yet she was able to control the true dragon's nest 1,000 miles away. Maha! Jiang Miao said enviously. Feeling helpless, Qing Mu turned back to him and said, "Dao friend Jiang, you can speak human language now." Strange, I'm not an unlucky star, so why was Elder Qing Huang unwilling to let me stay?
Tales of Herding Gods. Chapter 572, Meeting an Old Friend in a Foreign Place. Xianxia had sent Qing Mu from the tiny dragon village before using her vital qi to wrap around the true dragon's nest to send it 1,000 miles to the youth's side. While doing so, she asked Elder Qing Huang, "Old ancestor, why did you send Brother Qin away so fast? Isn't he a descendant of founding emperor?" The other villagers were also curious and all crowded up to hear the answer. "Old ancestor has said that you and founding emperor once swore to live and die together, so it was truly unreasonable to chase away Brother Qin." Elder Qing Huang gave them a stare. "How was I being unreasonable? Back then, founding emperor and I had sworn to live and die together, but it was mostly me that was suffering and him constantly benefiting at others' expense. Founding emperor brought his family to Carefree Village to be carefree, and threw his terrible mess to us while he himself lived without any concern. He wants me to clean up his shit? In his dreams." Xianxia and the rest looked at one another in dismay. Elder Qing Huang grew angrier with each word he spoke. "Never seen me speak vulgarities before? I was the most famous expert of vulgarity in founding Emperor Celestial Heavens. I once even scolded a bull god to death. Founding Emperor left behind a terrible mess and many Dao friends are waiting for him to make a comeback. But what's next?" He turned his back on the fishing net and walked out of the village with a hint of anger in his voice. Until now, he still hasn't shown his face. How many of our brothers' hearts have turned cold? This Qin Mu is his 107th descendant, but a fallen feather of a phoenix is inferior even to a hen dragon. The name of 107th descendant is merely a title, which 107th descendant of an emperor is still a prince. Such far-off descendant of a true dragon is even inferior to a long worm. If founding emperor wants to ask me out of the mountain, he will have to come out of Carefree Village to do that personally. Otherwise, even if the crown prince comes, I won't bother with him. Everyone followed him and came to a cold pond. Elder Qing Huang threw the net into the water, but he didn't pick it back even after a while. After some time, he said, "This Qin Mu has some abilities, but they're still not enough. Far from enough. His motive for coming here was to take back the Commander's Seal and learn Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique, and I gave him both of them. The bloodline of us green dragons no longer owes him anything. We no longer owe Qin family anything." Xianxia and the rest didn't say a word, but a middle-aged man coughed once. "Old ancestor, if you don't pull out the net, all the fish are going to escape." Elder Qing Huang kept muttering to himself. "This Qin Mu is a young fellow who is used to creating trouble. I'm very accurate when judging people and will never make a mistake. His temper is similar to that of founding emperor back then. They both can't sit still and like to create trouble while fiddling with things. I'm worried that if you guys follow him, you'll be in danger. We have lived in this village for 20,000 years, and even though life is very plain, we are living peacefully. Old ancestor, the fish have really escaped, Xianxia said nervously. Even though that founding emperor fellow is very hateful and I had to always to be afraid for my life when being around him, I miss that time. When I reminisce about it, my heart grows warm, and my eyes become moist. Xianxia dove into the cold pond with a plop and brought a huge scarlet-red fish out after a moment. Elder Qing Huang still didn't stop muttering to himself. Why would I miss that time? Could I have become old? No, I can't let you guys out of the village. This Qin Mu is crafty looking, and I could see at first glance that he's full of mischievous ideas. The villagers of the dragon village spewed fire to roast the fish after leaving Elder Qing Huang beside the pond. Since they were a distance away, Xianxia said, I think that Brother Qin has delicate features and looks quite handsome. With his big, clear eyes, he doesn't look like a bad guy. Don't talk so much. Old Ancestor is waging a war between man and heaven. In addition, Old Ancestor is a vulgar person by nature. How could he have anything nice to say? The middle-aged man said in a low voice. Uncle Yen, has Old Ancestor really scolded a bull god to death before? The young people all asked in curiosity. The middle-aged man Qing Yen hesitated for a moment before nodding. He whispered, he was a true god who got scolded for 3 days and 2 nights straight, and there wasn't a single repeated vulgarity that came out from Old Ancestor's mouth. The bull god could retaliate neither verbally nor physically, so he was angered to death just like that. Rumors said that the blood he had vomited formed a river, and he cried for 3 days before taking his last breath. Everyone was startled and turned back to look at Elder Qing Huang, who was still muttering to himself in a daze beside the pond. There's devil nature within this mischievous brat. A devil nature that's so deep that even Earth Count had to suppress him. Earth Count usually only suppress great evils, so he's indeed nothing good. However, this little brat learns things pretty quickly, and he has his own ideas, which makes him a talent. But if he likes to create trouble so much, it's easy for him to dance into death's embrace. While the young people of the dragon village ate the roasted fish, Xianxia asked with puzzlement, is Old Ancestor praising Brother Qin or scolding him? Elder Qing Huang still continued to wage war. I can't let the younger generations waste their lives away with me here. Maybe letting them out of the village would not be a bad thing. Everyone finished the fish and left the ground covered in fish bones. Elder Qing Huang finally finished his battles and shook off the water from the net. He prepared to pull it out and said with a smile, Qing Yen, we shall eat roasted fish tonight. After we finish eating, I permit you guys to take a walk around great ruins. Xianxia and the rest cheered before dispersing. Elder Qing Huang was stunned for a moment before just shaking his head. Zhang Miao changed into a youth that looked somewhat similar to Qin Yu. He followed Qin Mu while cultivating Ancestral Dragon's supreme mystery technique. He executed all kinds of moves and divine arts, training his body continuously. He was very hard-working. Qin Mu executed his Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, and with every circulation, 8 voices of Ancestral Dragon would ring once. With the endless dragon roars, he continuously refined his body. The two of them walked toward Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. Their speed wasn't too slow. Qin Mu refined Zhang Miao a few water element divine vitality pills to replenish his energy when he was tired from cultivation. Zhang Miao wasn't picky, but the taste of water element divine vitality pills wasn't good. However, it was compatible with his vital chi, so he ate them and even praised Qin Mu's craft. Qin Mu thought of the dragon Qilin and gave a silent sigh. Right then, he suddenly stopped and looked around. Zhang Miao hurriedly did the same and asked with curiosity, Cult Master, what's wrong? Qin Mu pondered over it before saying, I feel something closing in fast, but if I try to focus on it, I don't see anything. Strange. Could I have been wrong? He continued to head forward. After they had walked far into the distance, a medicinal peony flower suddenly floated over like smoke before transforming into Pangong Tso. He looked like himself, just that he had a deer leg. The brat could actually detect me. My cultivation has clearly risen drastically, but he still discovered me. The improvement of this brat's cultivation isn't slow either. He even has a small brat that looks to be a dragon beside him. The brat is truly a lucky bastard to receive the assistance of a true dragon. It might even be that he's kidnapping and selling true dragons. Someone is coming. While Pan Gong Tso was thinking, his ears caught a sound, and his body shook to transform into a huge tree. 2 eyeballs appeared on its branches. Whoosh! A bunch of green dragons whizzed past him while riding on a violent gale. The sight stunned him. The shortest of the green dragons were some 150 yards long. The group seemed to be chasing after Qin Mu. Whoosh! The violent gale rushed over, and the dozens of green dragons stopped in the vicinity of Pan Gong Tso. The shortest dragon shook her body and transformed into a young girl in green. She checked the surroundings and said, "He just left, so he shouldn't have gone far. We will be able to catch up to him in a bit." Suddenly, the biggest green dragon coiled around that tree that was Pan Gong Tso and stared at him. There's something strange about this tree. Pan Gong Tso didn't dare to be impudent and hurriedly revealed his true form. He smiled apologetically. "Senior dragons, might you guys be chasing after a youth called Qin Mu?" This junior saw a fierce-looking man escaping into that direction. He even had a kidnapped dragon youth beside him. "You saw him?" Xianxia was surprised and delighted. She asked in a hurry, "Where has he went?" "Junior can lead the way for seniors. That fellow will definitely not have any way to escape," Pan Gong Tso said righteously. Everyone was overjoyed and smiled at him. "If you can lead us to him, it'll save us the trouble of tracking him." Pan Gong Tso acted politely and swiftly hobbled ahead to lead the way. He smiled. "The brat is very slippery and he runs fast. However, he can never escape from me. Everyone, please follow me." Numerous green dragons transformed into young men and women along with the middle-aged man Qin Yan. They followed Pan Gong Tso, who was tracking Qin Mu. Qin Mu and Zhang Miao's speed was rather fast, and they could soon see the light rising from spirit energy mutual shift energy. The two of them increased their speed and reached a city. Qin Mu gathered some herbs and said, "When we return to Supreme Emperor Heaven, you will have to follow Qin Yu since I promised him to only borrow you for a few days." Zhang Miao looked at him with a troubled expression. "In the past, my intelligence had yet to awaken, so I had followed him, but how could I still do the same and coil around him? Cult Master, can you go and talk to him? I still owe him gratitude, so it isn't easy for me to speak." Qin Mu pondered over it, then said with a smile, "I borrowed a young dragon from him and now I'm returning him a man. I also can't speak about this stuff. Tell him yourself." Zhang Miao frowned. They came to Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge, but Zhang Miao dilly-dallied, willing to enter. Qin Mu smiled at him. "When we reach Supreme Emperor Heaven, I will ask for you two to become sworn brothers. How about that?" Relief flooded Zhang Miao, and he smiled back at Qin Mu. "In that case, thanks for the trouble, Cult Master." The two of them were about to enter Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge when Pan Gong Tso suddenly hobbled over in a strut. He laughed out loud. "Cult Master, what a small world. I trust you have been well." Qin Mu's eyes lit up and he smiled. "So it's Grandmaster. Do you still remember when you stood behind my back and tried to harm me? What did I tell you then? The next time I meet you, I'll take your head. How do you want to die? You're doomed and you still want to take my head?" Pan Gong Tso sneered at him. "Look who is behind me." Qin Yan, Xianxia, and the rest of the strong practitioners of the Dragon Village walked out. Xianxia waved her hand at Qin Mu excitedly and said with a smile, "Brother Qin, old ancestor permitted us to leave the village." Qin Mu was both surprised and delighted. He hurriedly said, "Elder Qing Huang allowed you guys to leave the village to gain experience? Truth be told, my Heavenly Saint cult is currently in need of people." Pan Gong Tso was dumbfounded. Then his expression changed to one of terror. He couldn't help exclaiming inside, "This guy didn't just kidnap one young dragon, but a whole bunch of them. This is bad, this is bad. There's no time to lose, time to flee." Just as he was about to go, a middle-aged man appeared behind him. Qing Yan's huge hand pressed down on his shoulder as he smiled down at him. Brother Qin, this little Dao friend should be your friend, right? It's all thanks to him that we were able to find you so quickly. Qin Mu looked at them with a smile that wasn't really a smile. I indeed have to thank Grandmaster. Brother Yen. Seize him. This guy is a god at escaping. Tales of Hurting Gods. Chapter 573 Descent of Lu Li. Just as Qing Yen finished speaking, his hand became empty when Pangong Tso fell to the floor, having become a shadow. Astonished, Qing Yen grabbed for the shadow, but it scattered with a poof and turned into smoke, so his hand grasped only air. The smoke separated into a dozen parts and flew away by the ground. The young experts of the dragon village rose into the air and pounced at them from different directions, each chasing after one part. They dispersed each trail of smoke, but there were no traces of Pangong Tso. Suddenly, Qin Mu raised his hand and a sword light flew out. Blood light shone, and a leg landed on the ground with a splattering of blood from out of nowhere. Qin Mu controlled his sword with qi, and sword lights flashed, yet he didn't hit anything. More and more smoke spread out in all directions, escaping through various streets. Pangong Tso's astonished and angry voice soon came from every direction. Qin brat, you and I cannot exist together. The place had numerous people walking to and fro, so once the smoke filled up all the streets, quite a number of them cried out in astonishment. The crowd made it extremely difficult for the dragon experts to search for traces of Pangong Tso. Qing Yan's expression flickered. He was a dragon god, yet he had allowed Pangong Tso to slip away under his watch. He felt ashamed. If that wasn't enough, Pangong Tso was a cripple with one short and one long leg, the former of which even belonged to a deer. Yet that youth had still managed to escape, leaving him embarrassed. However, he couldn't be blamed. He didn't have any enmity with Pangong Tso, so he just patted the other's shoulder instead of seizing him. And by the Qin Mu said his warning, it was already too late to restrict the man. Pangong Tso's ability to escape was unmatched in the world, and even Qin Mu had to admit being inferior in that regard. When Xing'an wanted to capture him, he had to face him head-on in the end, unlike Pangong Tso. Qin Mu saw that every one of the dragon village was dejected and said, "There's no need for everyone to be upset. I have to admit to being inferior to Pangong Tso in escaping abilities. I have fought with him numerous times on the same realm, and I could never take him down. My best achievement was cutting off one of his legs. Now that he's a realm higher than me and is already a great expert of celestial being realm, his abilities have improved by leaps and bounds again. He's now able to execute even more escaping divine arts than before, so it's even harder to catch hold of him. For me to be able to cut off one of his legs with everyone's help is already a rather extraordinary feat. For having such escaping abilities in celestial being realm, he's truly remarkable." Every one of the dragon village sighed endlessly in admiration. However, everyone felt quite uncomfortable. Pangong Tso had been left with a deer leg, yet he was still able to escape from their grasp. His ability to escape was truly terrifying. When they left the village, they held hopes to become famous after their first battle. Not one of them had expected that they might meet a freak like Pangong Tso straight away and suffer a setback. To have met such an interesting person the first day we are out of the village. The world outside the village is more interesting than what I've imagined, Xianxia said with excitement. However, the other people of the dragon village were not as excited as her. Qin Mu saw it and said with a smile, "It's been a long time since you guys have come into contact with the outside world, and your paths, skills, and divine arts are a little outdated, so don't be in a rush to return to the village. Why don't you follow me to Supreme Emperor Heaven to train and get in touch with the paths, skills, and divine arts of the current world?" Everyone acknowledged. "When we left the village, old ancestor warned us to not walk too close to you," Qing Yan said with some hesitation. Qin Mu picked up Pangong Tso's leg and sealed the section where it had been severed. He refined some medicinal liquid and placed the leg inside it. He smiled and said, "Elder Qing Huang is too careful. You guys should be able to see that I'm not a bad person. When you reach Supreme Emperor Heaven, feel free to ask about Heavenly Saint Cult Master Qin Mu. I guarantee you that my reputation is very good. Uncle Yen once went to Eternal Peace and upon his return talked about Heavenly Saint cult, which is called Heavenly Devil cult. Its reputation wasn't too good, Xianxia said. Uncle Yen once went to Eternal Peace and upon his return talked about Heavenly Saint cult, which is called Heavenly Devil cult. Its reputation wasn't too good, Xianxia said. Qin Mu was full of smiles. There must have been a misunderstanding. Now that it's been cleared, every voice in Eternal Peace would definitely give praise to my Heavenly Saint cult. Great Cult Master Qin turned around and walked into Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge while thinking to himself, those who called Heavenly Saint cult a devil cult have almost all been crippled by me. But there might still be people talking bad about me behind my back, so it'd be best to go Supreme Emperor Heaven. My and Heavenly Saint cult's reputation is very good there, and if they hear it, they won't be far from joining the cult. Qin Yen brought the young men and young women into Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge with him, and the sky instantly swirled. They felt the fleetingness of time and space, and a vast and different world appeared in front of their eyes. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. Qin Mu looked into the distance and his face became grim. In the sky, the artisans of Eternal Peace were assembling the second sun, which was already half complete. Yet even the light of two suns couldn't light up the entire Supreme Emperor Heaven. Far into the distance, the sky was dim. The devil chi there was like fog which shrouded the heaven and earth. It was the territory of the devils, and huge sacrificial altars as tall as mountains were bursting forth with intense black light in their lands. The black lights were like smoke that rushed straight into the clouds. Through them, humongous bodies descended from time to time. The devil gods are doing blood sacrifices again. Are they inviting their old ancestors from Yudu? The devil gods born from the accumulation of devil nature and grievances. Qin Mu composed himself. After he was kidnapped by Fu Riluo, he saw many majestic sacrificial altars in the old nest of the devils. From Fu Riluo, he knew that they would be used to summon Yudu devil gods. Back then, Fu Riluo had activated the curse in the jade pendant and was defeated by it. He was injured and numerous sacrificial altars were also destroyed. But from the looks of it now, the devils had reconstructed the sacrificial altars in little time. And that day they were activated, and Yudu devil gods broke through the barrier between Yudu and Supreme Emperor Heaven to come in one after another. They kept descending like there would be no end to them. The situation is getting serious. Qin Mu composed himself and summoned a guard of Supreme Emperor Heaven, who was in charge of guarding Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. If you see a youth with one deer leg coming through the bridge, just slay him. Don't give him any chance to reason with you. The guard took the painting from Qin Mu's hand and passed the message to the other guards. Cult Master, don't worry. If this deer-leg youth really walks through Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge, he won't be able to escape death. I hope you guys can get rid of him. Qin Mu brought everyone in a hurry to Li City. The place felt like it had already encountered a great enemy, since weapons were being refined on every corner. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, Pang Yu, and the rest of the gods stood on the city tower and looked at the thousands of soldiers and cavalries changing formation below them. Qin Mu brought Qin Yen and the rest up to them. It was resting place in the city anyway. Cult Master Qin, these people are? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor asked as he examined Qin Yen, Xianxia, and the rest with his heart in shock. He could see that the 37 people behind Qin Mu were extraordinary, and besides Zhang Miao, every single one of them had incomparably dense cultivation. 2 of them might even be gods. He had no idea where Qin Mu could have gotten such a huge group of experts. Imperial Preceptor, they are from Great Ruins Dragon Village. It's somewhat far away from my disabled elderly village, but I managed to invite them to join us after much difficulty. Qin Mu then introduced them. Brother Qin Yen, Sister Qin He. This is Imperial Preceptor of Eternal Peace Empire, the saint that appears once every 500 years. How can the saint that appears once every 500 years be compared to the overlord body that is rarely seen in the world? Cult Master Qin, the villages of your great ruins are really concealing talents. First were the 9 elders of Disabled Elder Village, now the 36 heroes of Dragon Village. Your homeland is truly enigmatic and impossible to predict. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor then greeted Qing Yan, Qing He, and the rest before saying with a smile, I was worried about how we can fight this battle, but with everyone's assistance, the pressure I feel has gone down by a lot. Qing Yan hurriedly returned the greeting and said, I've heard of Imperial Preceptor's reputation long ago, and now I can finally see the man for myself. The legend of the saint that appears once every 500 years comes from long ago. I have already heard about it during founding emperor era. Brother Qin is actually the overlord body though. He looked at Qin Mu and said with a smile, Truth be told, I've heard about the legend of the overlord body from Elder Qing Huang before. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was astonished and thought, There's really an overlord body in this world? I was still somewhat doubtful. He roused his spirit and said, Everyone, the devils have called for a lot of reinforcements, and Heavenly Teacher has yet to return after going to the devil world. We have no idea what has happened to him. Even though Supreme Emperor Heaven has the support of eternal peace, our gods are few in number, so there cannot be any comparison to what the devils have summoner. True God Pang Yu and the rest had grim expressions. God Sang Yi said, Yudu devil gods are the ancestors of the devils and they only know how to kill. They are even more vicious than the devils, and they have even brought numerous monsters that are extremely terrifying. Their abilities are stronger than those of high-class devils, and they're very varied. We probably can't protect Supreme Emperor Heaven anymore. Everyone was silent. Qin Mu looked afar. There were still more Yudu devil gods being summoned over by the beams of black light. In Xing An's life and death realm, that woman called Lu Li was from Yudu. Why was she looking for me though? I wonder if she's among the Yudu devil gods that Fu Riluo has summoned. In the great capital of the devils, Fu Riluo rubbed his chest and looked at the sacrificial altar in front of him. Devil light swirled furiously, and numerous devil soldiers were slaughtering humans and lowly devils, treating them as offerings for blood sacrifice. There were many offerings for the upcoming one, which made it obvious that the Yudu devil god that was being summoned had extremely strong abilities. If not so, Fu Riluo wouldn't have been alerted. After a moment, the devil light in the sky suddenly gathered up and fell. When it dispersed, a peerless beauty stood in the center of the sacrificial altar. When Fu Riluo saw her, his face changed drastically, filling up with joy. He laughed and said, Lu Li of the 4 great commanders of Yudu, why would you respond to my summons and descend personally? The peerless beauty walked leisurely down the steps of the sacrificial altar while looking around herself. A male voice came from her mouth when she spoke with a smile. I'm here to find a person, a youth that's 18 years old. He has a jade pendant with Qin written on it, which he always carries with himself. Fu Riluo gave a grunt and felt the wound on his chest ache again. It was the wound that Qin Mu had inflicted upon him. Lu Li, I've seen this youth that you want to find, Fu Riluo said indifferently. His jade pendant is very weird, but he is even weirder. You must have plucked his jade pendant and tried out the seal within it. Lu Li chuckled. Your wound that has yet to heal must be from him, right? Foolish. Fu Riluo's expression turned black, but Lu Li just smiled at him. If you capture this youth with the surname Qin, I'll help you annex Supreme Emperor Heaven. Fu Riluo grinned at her, the corners of his lips almost reaching his ears. Commander Lu Li, we are honored by your presence. It brings light to our humble dwelling.
Tales of Hurting Gods. Chapter 574, Spy. Fu Riluo, the wise sage of the devils, how can you lure the youth with the surname Qin? Lu Li inquired. Fu Riluo smiled and said leisurely, one of the 4 great commanders of Yudu, Lu Li, how are you going to help me annex Supreme Emperor Heaven? Lu Li looked at the huge sacrificial altars of the devil race and Yudu devil gods walking down from them. One such god grabbed over 100 devil divine arts practitioners without any reason and stuffed them into his mouth. It alarmed the other devils, and they fled in all directions. Beside the sacrificial altar, the devil gods of the devil race rushed forward to intercept the newcomers. Yudu devil gods were the ancestors of the devil race, and they only knew how to kill, they didn't have much intelligence. Numerous devil gods created a huge cover to trap the ancestor inside. He roared and tried to destroy the cover, but he couldn't shatter it. The devil gods summoned back the numerous devil divine arts practitioners. 100-strong workers pulled a huge cart over and moved the cover inside it. They then pulled it away with all their strength. There were 1,000 devil divine arts practitioners pushing the cart from the back as well. Their goal was to bring the devil ancestor to the front line. Your army is too weak, and the devil ancestors you summoned are too hard to control. They only know how to swallow, Luli said indifferently. If you want to borrow their strength to destroy the army of Supreme Emperor Heaven, it will end with devastation on both sides. The gains will not make up for the losses. When you conquer Supreme Emperor Heaven, it will be thoroughly destroyed, little better than your Luofu Heaven. Fu Riluo's gaze wavered. You should know my goal isn't Supreme Emperor Heaven, but the place of founding Emperor Celestial Heavens. Luli looked at him with a smile that was not really a smile. Fu Riluo, you want to use Supreme Emperor Heaven as a springboard, sacrificing it to connect Luofu Heaven, Supreme Emperor Heaven, and founding Emperor Celestial Heavens. Your wish is to descend to that world. Fu Riluo smiled silently. Dao brother is also a devil. Don't you wish to see our devil race growing stronger? Luli was silent for a moment before shaking her head. Your ambition is great, but your abilities are lacking. You will only bring trouble to yourself. However, I'm also a devil and will still assist you. You can't control the devil ancestors, but I can. She swept her sleeves up, and the cover on the huge cart in the distance suddenly split apart. The devil ancestor inside roared angrily and jumped out. He roared toward the sky and hammered his chest in fury. Devil Chi rushed out to him. Fu Riluo's face changed, and the devil gods in the surroundings were also alarmed. They all rushed to the devil ancestor in a hurry. Yet the devil ancestor suddenly rose into the air and flew over to Fu Riluo. He landed on the ground heavily and stood beside Luli motionlessly. The devil gods rushed over, but Fu Riluo raised his hand. Fall back. He looked at the devil ancestor, and the green face and fangs of this ancient devil god. He was covered in extremely ancient markings that seemed to be carved on his skin. Fu Riluo let out a shaky breath and said, How many devil ancestors can Dao brother control? Luli's beautiful face blossomed with a smile. I can control as many as you can summon. Fu Riluo's 3 faces couldn't help changing their expressions. Luli's control over the devil ancestors meant that she could also make them attack his people and overthrow him. The reason he didn't want to be related to the celestial heavens was because he wanted to preserve his ruling position. He was afraid that the devils might fall into the control of the celestial heavens, so he didn't ask that place for help. Instead, he summoned the devil ancestors of Yudu. However, when he thought about it, he had been seeing it too simply. The celestial heavens already had control over the devil ancestors of Yudu, which meant that they wanted to control all of the devils. The moment Fu Riluo had summoned Luli, he was no longer in charge of the devils. Now you can tell me how to capture that youth with the surname Qin, right? Luli said. Fu Riluo composed himself and said, It's not hard to capture him. Take the cities and seize the territories, go straight for the heart. As long as those people are humans, they will have weakness. The divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven that are afraid of death are not few in number, and more than a few of them have come to our side. One of them is even a god. As long as I give the command, someone will capture him and bring him to see me.
Luli's eyes lit up. You have a spy in Supreme Emperor Heaven who's even a god? Who is he? Qin Mu stood in front of the Li City Tower and watched the black tiger god leaping through the air as though he was flying. He brought the dragon Qilin and Hu Linger back from the faraway devil territory. Along with them returned hundreds of Supreme Emperor Heaven and Eternal Peace's divine arts practitioners. Fatty Dragon seems to have become skinnier. Qin Mu's eyes lit up. While he was not around, the dragon Qilin seemed to have actually become skinnier. Even though he still had a big tummy, it at least didn't touch the ground anymore. Qin Mu was glad to see that. After a moment, The black tiger god reached the city gates and looked up to see him standing above. He immediately brought the dragon Qilin and Hu Linger up with him and land beside Qin Mu. He then shook his body and transformed into a smiling youth. Junior brother, you are finally back. Fatty dragon. Spit out your dragon bead to show my junior brother. The dragon Qilin saw Qin Mu like long-lost family. He was about to pounce over to ask for spirit pills, but after the tiger god's words, he could only sit down obediently and spit out his bead. It was evident that he hadn't faced a lack of beading during this period of time, for he had become very obedient. The bead rose into the sky, and instantly flames surged from inside it. The bead shone with multicolored light that had extraordinary splendor, lighting up the area of dozens of miles. There was a dragon-shaped marking in the bead that swam continuously inside it. There was an abnormally strong water vapor fluctuation because of it. Qin Mu cheered, but he was also feeling that something was strange. This dragon bead of the dragon Qilin was much smaller than the other dragon beads he had seen before. It was only the size of a thumb, while the smallest dragon bead he had seen was the size of a fist. Isn't Fatty Dragon fire attribute? How is the dragon bead of water attribute? And it's so small. Could I have given him the wrong spirit pills? Just as he thought that, the dragon Qilin spat out a bead which was like a blazing sun in the sky, emanating with blazing heat energy. Even Qin Mu felt a stinging pain when its light landed on him. 2 dragon beads. No, the other bead is a Qilin bead. Qin Mu was astonished at first, but then he understood what had happened. The second bead wasn't a dragon bead and had a strange beast marking in the shape of a Qilin. It was standing on fire clouds with its mouth open for roaring. The Qilin bead was unusually big, almost the size of a round-bottomed basket that was 2 feet wide. Inside it was incomparably terrifying Qilin fire. Qilin fire was incomparably fierce, and its heat was outstanding. When Qin Mu looked at the Qilin bead, he had a suspicion that the dragon Qilin might have cultivated to life and death realm. The dragon bead has water attribute while the Qilin bead has fire attribute. Could Fatty Dragon be water and fire attribute? Qin Mu had a blank gaze. He only knew that the dragon Qilin liked to eat fire attribute spirit pills, like Scarlet Fire Spirit and Fire Element Divine Vitality pills, so he had never expected for him to also have a water attribute. Now, one of the 2 beads was very large while the other extremely small. It was obvious it stemmed from the dragon Qilin being picky about his food. The black tiger god was proud of his achievements and said with a smile, "Junior brother, Fatty Dragon has eaten too many spirit pills which have all accumulated in his body, resulting in his corporeal body being fat. This fellow is also exceptionally lazy, so he has never cultivated before. He only cultivated by eating, so he kept growing fatter and fatter. When I brought him out and made him fight the devil brats, it squeezed out his potential and he was finally able to refine the energy from the pills into the beads and become skinnier. Here, I'll return Fatty Dragon to you. It's so annoying. During these couple days, I haven't found a single devil god with which I could fight to my heart's content." Qin Mu was full of gratitude and smiled at him. "Senior brother, thanks for the trouble." The black tiger god smiled back. "I'm off. Don't start any trouble now and just wait here obediently for me to return. That's right. Don't feed Fatty Dragon any more Scarlet Fire Spirit pills or Fire Element Divine Vitality pills, since there is still accumulated energy within his body. Once he finishes refining all of it, the Qilin bead will become more than thrice bigger." Once he said that, he leaped off the tower and vanished. When the dragon Qilin saw him leaving, he choked on his tears, unable to speak. Qin Mu was very happy with the proceedings. Fatty Dragon must have missed me, so he's crying from being emotional. Hu Linger hesitated for a moment, then said in a soft voice, "Young master, Fatty Dragon is crying cause he is hungry and because of the black tiger god's training. He finished all the spirit pills you left for him a long time ago, and he doesn't like to eat anything else." Yet the black tiger god kept making him fight with strong devil practitioners without giving him time to rest. Now that his oppressor is finally gone, he started to weep in grievance. The dragon Qilin nodded repeatedly. Qin Mu took out herbs to refine pills and said with a smile, "I knew you would be hungry, So when I came back, I bought numerous spirit herbs. My biggest gain this time is still finding Fatty Dragon, a cultivation technique. However, you also have the bloodline of a Qilin, so Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique won't activate all of your potential. He rapidly finished refining a furnace of spirit pills and handed it over to the Dragon Qilin. They were Water Element Divine Vitality pills, the same spirit pills he had fed Zhang Miao. The Dragon Qilin licked one spirit pill and instantly noticed that the taste was different. He held back his tears while eating that one, then put the rest away. Fatty Dragon, why didn't you eat all of them? Hu Linger asked with curiosity. I'm scared of starving, so I want to save some. Besides, the taste of the spirit pill isn't right. It's not Scarlet Fire Spirit Pill. The Dragon Qilin then turned to Qin Mu and asked carefully, Cult Master, can you refine a few more buckets of Scarlet Fire Spirit Pills? Qin Mu turned a deaf ear to him and summoned Zhang Miao. Junior brother Zhang Miao, teach Fatty Dragon Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique, while I refine more Water Element Divine Vitality pills to give the two of you. Zhang Miao acknowledged and imparted Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique to the Dragon Qilin, explaining to him the parts that were difficult to understand. The Dragon Qilin's comprehension wasn't bad. He was just too lazy. However, with the Black Tiger God's harsh training, he didn't dare to slack off and managed to learn what he was told quickly. Qin Mu refined a few more furnace of Water Element Divine Vitality pills and gave to Zhang Miao and the Dragon Qilin. Cult Master Qin, you are back. Qin Yu's voice rang out, and he sprinted up the tower. He was next to them with a face full of smiles in a heartbeat. Cult Master is a man of his word. I trust you will return that little dragon of mine to. The smile on Zhang Miao's face froze, and he looked over helplessly. Qin Mu welcomed their guest and said with a smile, Junior brother Qin Yu, let me tell you a piece of wonderful news. That little dragon of yours learned a god technique that's very powerful, so he can definitely become a dragon king in the future. Qin Yu was elated and looked around. Much thanks, Cult Master. Where's my good boy? Junior brother Zhang Miao, come. Junior brother Qin Yu is calling you. Qin Mu beckoned with his hand, and Zhang Miao braced himself before walking forward. Hu Linger's mouth dropped open, and she looked blankly as the youth walked toward Qin Yu. She kicked the Dragon Qilin and asked, Fatty Dragon, do you have any popcorns? The Dragon Qilin shook his head. Qin Yu stared with a blank expression at the youth who was walking over. The young man looked similar to him, just more handsome than him. Even though he was somewhat shy, he had an impressive appearance, and his abilities weren't weak. Cult Master Qin. Qin Yu turned his head to look at Qin Mu, his gaze full of astonishment, fear, helplessness, confusion, and not knowing what to do. Zhang Miao is that little dragon of yours, the son of Surging River Dragon King. He has cultivated Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique and won't have any problems in cultivating to a dragon god or a dragon king in the future. Qin Mu took out a few sticks of incense and stabbed them in the tower's walls. Now I returned him to you, you two can have a long chat. He was about to leave when Qin Yu grabbed his sleeve and said helplessly, Cult Master Qin, I lent you a dragon and you return me a... Zhang Miao grabbed his other sleeve, and Qin Mu felt helpless. He could only say, I'll take charge and make you guys become sworn brothers. How about that? Junior brother Qin Yu, how old are you? Qin Yu nodded in a daze. I'm 17 years old. Qin Mu looked at Zhang Miao, and the youth calculated for a moment. I'm 20,087 years old. Your ages are just right. The difference isn't too big. Qin Mu clapped his hands and said with a smile, From today onwards, Zhang Miao will be Qin Yu's sworn big brother, and Qin Yu will be Zhang Miao's sworn little brother. Now things won't be too awkward. Come, you two can kowtow and become sworn brothers. After he said that, he pressed both of them to kneel down. Zhang Miao and Qin Yu had blank expressions as they were forced by him to kowtow several times. Qin Mu wiped away his cold sweat and quickly said, Congratulations, Linger, Fatty Dragon. Let me bring you two to meet some seniors of the dragon race. Let's go. Hu Linger wanted to continue watching the show, but she was placed onto the back of the Dragon Qilin and brought away by Qin Mu. Only Qin Yu and Jiang Miao were left in the city tower. Young master, I want to see how they will get along. Hu Linger was full of curiosity and turned her head back to look. Qin Yu and Jiang Miao were still facing each other, standing speechless. Tales of Herding Gods. Chapter 575 Cult Master's Weird Friends. From Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge, a young man with 2 deer legs walked out and raised his head to look around in utter astonishment. He muttered, "This world is much more vast than eternal peace. There are gods and devils everywhere. The brat had actually constructed such a bridge to connect to the other world. This is truly superlative craftsmanship. The little rascal clearly likes to create nonsense like this and isn't focused on cultivating. Making this bridge had to have taken him quite a while. So how did his cultivation still rise so quickly?" "Leader," one of the guards on the side pouted and whispered, "Look at that deer-legged youth. Is he the one on the portrait that Cult Master Qin had drawn?" The guard hurriedly took out Qin Mu's painting and did a comparison. His eyes lit up. Exactly the same. However, the youth in the painting only has 1 deer leg while this youth has 2 deer legs. Is it him or not? While he was hesitating, he saw that youth begin to walk down the stone steps. "No matter what, we should take him down first." The guard shot a glance to the other guards, and they all understood the silent command. They rose into the sky, and all kinds of divine arts and spirit weapons burst forth. Sword pellets, knife pellets, tall buildings, pagodas, huge cauldrons, and other spirit weapons came smashing down at a great speed and drowned out the deer-legged youth. Terrifying ripples spread in all directions, reverberating for a long time. Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge was of utmost importance to both worlds, so the ones guarding it were mostly experts. The lowest of them was on Life and Death Realm, while there were many of them on Divine Bridge Realm. Everyone then retrieved their spirit weapons and quickly came to the bottom of the sacrificial altar to take a look. They saw white ground, but no trace of the deer-legged youth. Astonished, they looked around. Light burst forth from their eyes and penetrated through everything in 100 miles radius. Suddenly, they saw a deer-legged youth 100 miles away, running forward with gentle steps. "Let's shoot him with our divine eyes," the guard ordered, and divine light gathered rapidly in the eyes of the numerous guards. They transformed into beams of light with astonishing power and rushed toward the deer-legged youth. He vanished just before the pupil divine arts hit his body. When he reappeared, he was another 100 miles away. By then, he was 200 miles away from Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. Everyone was ready to use their pupil divine arts, but the deer-legged youth vanished again and could no longer be seen. The guards looked at one another, aghast. They didn't know what to do next. At that moment, they heard the sound of footsteps behind them, and a youth walked out from the Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. A huge chest followed behind him. It had several legs and clattered as it walked after the youth with delicate facial features. It seems like Cult Master Qin's chest, but this person isn't Cult Master Qin. Everyone was bewildered when the youth with eyes like stars spoke in a nice voice. "Is this Supreme Emperor Heaven? Where are the true devils? Is little brother a person of eternal peace? Why would you be looking for true devils? If you want to find some of their kind, just head to the devil territory over there. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor is currently training soldiers in Li City, so you may first want to go there and look for him. It would make things more convenient." The youth shook his head. "I just want to collect the corporeal bodies and primordial spirits of some devil gods. So why should I find Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor? This junior? The him now is still not worthy to be part of my collection." He was about to leave when an old man full of wrinkles walked out of the bridge while carrying a huge chest and furnace of his back. He was full of smiles and looked quite happy. "Why are all the people coming from Eternal Peace today weird?" All of the guards were bewildered. First it was a youth with 2 deer legs. Next it's 2 weird men bringing along their chests. The youth had a drastic change in expression when he saw the old man carrying the furnace and the chest. His face turned incomparably dark. "Mute. I've been looking for you for a long time." When the old man saw him, his expression changed. The smile on his face froze. ABA? Ah, that's right, it's me, Xingyan. Xingyan's murder intent rushed to the sky, and he said coldly, "Although I no longer have the need to collect your parts, you trapped me inside for so long that I have to take revenge. Mute, you run so fast." Light flashed from Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge, and an incomparably sturdy man cloaked with an overcoat walked out. He carried a huge knife on his shoulder and spoke with a smile. "Your chest is still good, transforming into a boat for you to run around. I could barely catch up to Xingyan. Heaven knife." The corner of Xingyan's eyes twitched, and the chest behind him suddenly pulled its legs back to hide behind him. It was obvious that it still remembered Butcher chopping it into pieces. Xingyan put his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "You have also broken through the divine bridge and entered the celestial palaces? One mute, one heaven knife, both gods, both enemies. You can both come together." Butcher's eyes lit up, and he laughed loudly. "Xingyan, I've chased you through 80,000 miles, but you still escaped. You are truly remarkable. That old fellow village chief says that your abilities are extremely strong, but it's a pity he's dead. However, you are still alive, so I wanted to meet you for a long time." Xingyan gave a slight smile and said leisurely, "Human Emperor Sword God? He is no longer my match. Both of you can come together. I'll settle my debts with the two of you and go hunt some devil gods to enrich my collection." Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge flashed again, and an elder dressed in green walked out with an extraordinary bearing as though he was a prince that was high above. He touched his iron ears and gave a sigh of relief after discovering that they were still there. He asked suspiciously, "Was this bridge really constructed by Muir? He is becoming more and more capable. Xingyan, deaf. Xingyan, this brat has cultivated to godhood." Butcher shouted out, "You are the weakest, so be careful." Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge flashed again, and everyone's eyes lighted up when a peerless beauty walked out of the light. The sweep of her beautiful gaze caused everyone to fall into a daze. "Xingyan," she cried out in astonishment. "Granny C, become older. Don't make me lose focus." Butcher shouted angrily, "Let's all go together and thrash this fellow." Another short elder walked out from Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge with a black dragon spear on his back. He said leisurely, "Xingyan, what arrogance." He was followed by a skinny elder with an honest smile. When he saw Xingyan, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly turned to go back into the bridge. However, he was grabbed by the elder with the black spear and could only walk forward with him. Xingyan's gaze shifted from Granny C's face and landed on Blind's body. He said coldly, "My old enemies are all here. I can send all of you on the way then." Right then, a tall man wearing a bronze mask walked in while gasping loudly for breath. "You guys run too fast. I had to exhaust all my energy just to barely catch up. Why are you guys not running anymore?" Xingyan is also here." Xingyan's face changed drastically, and he picked up the chest to escape. With a boom, his figure broke through the air and left behind a cloud of vapor. He sprinted over 100 miles away before anyone could react. Everyone stared wide-eyed at his speed. Apothecary touched the mask on his face and spoke, sounding a little weirded out. "Why did he run so fast? I didn't even have the time to make a move." Teacher Heaven Knife. From Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge, a booming voice rang out. It was deafening. "I see you. Stop running. Green Bull, run faster." "Teacher, I have many things I want to say to you." You. Butcher's expression turned ashen, and he hurriedly said, "Ba Shan is catching up. Let's run." Granny C and the rest left with his words. After a moment, a sturdy green bull man that was over 30 yards tall descended from the sky with a peony flower in his mouth. His muscles bounced while he walked out from the light in excitement. In a moment, he was followed by another sturdy man who looked around while saying in delight, "Teacher's knife light is eye-catching, so he can't hide from me. Green Bull, show your true form." The sturdy green bull man gave a loud moo and transformed into a green bull that was over 120 yards tall. He was covered in green hair and dragon scales. The sturdy man jumped onto the bull's back, and it rushed into the sky. The guards of Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge looked at one another in dismay. After a moment, their leader let out a shaky breath. There are really quite a lot of weird people today. Before he even finished speaking, the light flashed again, and one old and two young monks walked out of the Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. The old monk had a dignified expression as he walked with 20 heavens behind him. Several hundred eminent monks of all sizes and ages sat in them. Some of them were humans and some demons. One of the young monks had a face like a full moon with a dignified expression. The other was sturdy like a black pagoda and held a kakara staff in his hand. Xianxia asked the way, the old monk said. The black pagoda-like hairy monk walked forward and greeted the guards with one hand. He asked the one in the lead, "Road?" That leader was confused, but still tried asking, "Good? Evil? Good?" The black monk replied, "There." The guard raised his hand and pointed in the direction of Li City. The old monk strode in that direction, and the two young monks followed him down the bridge. While they walked, Ming Xian exclaimed in admiration, "Rulai, senior brother Xianxia is really straightforward in asking for the way. He managed to do it in just 2 words. This disciple has learned much." Rulai Ma nodded and said, "He has great wisdom." The guards saw them off with blank expressions, but before they could even come back to their senses, a few more old Taoists and nuns walked out from the bridge while surrounding a young Taoist. Is this the Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge constructed by Old Devil Qin? His attainments in algebra have truly reached the peak. Numerous old Taoists and nuns took out all kinds of calculation tools. With no regard for the guards, they started to measure all kinds of rune markings on the bridge and began to discuss them in excitement. The guards looked at one another in dismay, planning to ask the young Taoist about what they were doing when they saw him being even more excited than the old Taoists. He was measuring and calculating everything while muttering to himself. He seemed almost feverish, intoxicated with his work. The fellows of eternal peace are all weird people. The Taoists were still measuring when a few elders with immortal air came out with some young men and women. When they saw the Taoists, one of them asked with a smile, "Tao Master Lin Xian, what are you guys doing?" "So it's seniors of Little Jade Capital. Senior brother Muron is also here." Tao Master Lin Xian raised his head and said excitedly, "The algebra that Cult Master Qin used for this bridge is too astonishing. We are still calculating." Wang Muron smiled at him. "Tao Master, even if you guys calculate for a while, you might not be able to find all of the knowledge lying here. Why don't you just ask Cult Master Qin for the blueprints?" Tao Master Lin Xian came to the realization of his mistake and summoned all of the Taoists. He then said with a smile, "When we saw this bridge, we forgot that there might be a shortcut. That's right, has senior brother Su Shenghua arrived as well? After he returned from high heavens, he went to Supreme Emperor Heaven, so he should have already reached this place. He must have gone to God's Suppression Pagoda to see if he could pass the test of the young true God," Mu Qingdai said. While bustling with conversations, they all headed towards the direction of Li City. It was obvious that some disciples had come here before, since they were familiar with the path and left the guards behind them in a daze. Were all those people Cult Master Qin's friends? "They are all weirdos," the guard in the lead muttered to himself. How did such a good and normal person like Cult Master Qin make friends with all those weird people?
Tales of Hurting Gods. Chapter 576, My Name is Cha. Truly a beautiful world. Wang Muron, Tao Master Lin Xian, and the rest admired the magnificence of Supreme Emperor Heaven. There were 2 suns in the sky, which made them exclaim endlessly in awe. Far in the distance, huge sacrificial altars sent black light into the clouds. The group had no idea that such a thing was an abnormal sight caused by the descending of the devil ancestors. "When I heard that the sun was unbearable to look at, I didn't dare to come," Tao Master Lin Xian said with a smile. "Only now that Imperial Preceptor has begun his reconstruction did I dare to enter." They came to the outskirts of Li City where many soldiers came over to check them. When they heard that they were divine arts practitioners of eternal peace, they hurriedly said, "There have been numerous devils coming out recently, so we had no choice but to tighten the security, pardon us." Wang Miran looked around and saw the army training outside the city. Battle flags were waving in the wind while divine arts practitioners were running like wolves and rushing through a huge formation like wild boars. Their cultivations were all remarkable, and their battle power was extremely strong, making him eager to test himself. "Miran, calm down," Hermit Qingyu said. "The legacy of Supreme Emperor Heaven is complete, and a level higher than that of eternal peace. Even though you have gained an inheritance from Fengdu, you are still inferior to the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven. If you want to exchange pointers with someone, you need to find a divine arts practitioner that's a realm lower than you." Wang Miran was unwilling to accept that and shook his head. "Senior uncle, besides Cult Master Qin, I haven't lost to anyone on the same realm in eternal peace." Dao Master Lin Xian raised his eyebrows and gave a cough. Wang Miran looked at him and spoke at a pace that was neither too fast nor too slow. "Does Dao Master Lin Xian has any opinion?" Dao Master Lin Xian smiled and said, "If we haven't fought before, how do you know you don't lose to anyone?" The light in Wang Miran's eyes grew brighter. "You are right. You and I are both leaders in Heaven Alliance, yet we had never fought before. You are the Dao Master of Dao sect after all, so your position is way higher than mine. I'm merely a student of Little Jade Capital. However, the higher you are, the less are you actually required to fight. I wonder if you can even fight anymore. You have fought many people, but they were all weaker than you. Sometimes, a battle with a strong practitioner can surpass 100 with ordinary people. What does senior brother Miran think?" Dao Master Lin Xian said leisurely. The two of them were blazing with fighting spirit and were about to make their moves when an astonishing rumble rang out. They saw two female generals fighting in the formation. They were Princess Yuxiu of Eternal Peace and Saintess Xianxia of Heavenly Saint Cult. The two women were in charge of training different camps, and they fought fiercely from the first minute they clashed. Ling Yuxiu raised her foot to give a heavy stomp, and mud flew into the sky. Countless bolts of lightning instantly appeared in the sky, and they formed a huge whirlpool. Lightning green dragons danced within it. Boom! The two women collided, and lightning struck around them. Ling Yuxiu swung her hammer, and countless lightning green dragons descended from the sky. Various divine arts exploded. Their power was so great that Wang Miran and Dao Master Lin Xian's eyelids twitched furiously. The path Ling Yuxiu had taken was the fusion of battle techniques and Dao spells. By hiding spell divine arts in her battle technique, she used lightning to refine her body, and her magic power was incomparably dense. The power of her divine arts was truly terrifying. Xianxia, who was fighting against her, had taken the path of hiding swords in her divine arts. She had inherited the strong points of Heavenly Saint Cult's divine arts, their strangeness and unpredictability. In terms of cultivation, she was inferior to Ling Yuxiu, but by combining all kinds of divine arts of Heavenly Saint Cult, she could burst forth with extraordinary power. How biased of Cult Master to impart Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique to you. Lassie Xiao, even if you kill me, I am still the genuine Cult Mistress. Lassie Xiang, you are the Cult Mistress? I was the one that got married first, so you are the second one at most. We were childhood sweethearts with the cowherd boy and have long exchanged tokens of love. This huge hammer was given to me by him. Pa. What kind of token of love is a huge hammer? Cult Master is then bound to me for life since he gave me his junior protector sword. Pa. You clearly extorted it from him and even sold it afterward.
Dao Master Lin Xian, Wang Miran, and the rest stood with their eyes wide open. All kinds of divine arts and skills were exploding in the battle formations of the two girls. Their power was truly terrifying. It was just that they allowed their anger to get the better of them, and when the battle formations changed, they just continued to fight instead of following up. Suddenly, a young girl with long braids came between the two of them and separated them. Sisters, this is a practice and not a real life and death fight. Xianxia, are you going to interfere? The three girls fought until heaven fell and earth rent. Lin Xian and Wang Miran looked at each other in astonishment. Their hearts were heavy. They didn't recognize Xianxia, but they were very familiar with Xianxia and Ling Yuxiu. These two girls were also members of Heaven Alliance, and even though they were outstanding, their abilities had been slightly inferior to theirs. Ling Yuxiu and Si Yunxiang had entered Supreme Emperor Heaven earlier than them, and in just 1 month, their cultivation had improved to the point they would have never imagined. This really put a lot of pressure on them. Just a month of not seeing them, and we might not be able to defeat them. Why should we even fight over who is stronger? Dao Master Lin Xian smiled bitterly. We should be obedient students and study Supreme Emperor Heaven's path of cultivation. Wang Muran nodded. For Princess Xiao and Saintess Xiang to have such drastic improvements in such a short time, there has to be a huge deficiency in Eternal Peace's cultivation system. As long as we patch this weakness, our abilities will also have a chance to take a large leap. The battle formation changed, and more troops came join the battlefield. Dao Master Lin Xian looked over and saw numerous Eternal Peace's scholars training with the troops. The abilities of Wei Yong, Qin Yu, Chen Wanyun, Yu Qinghong, and the rest had also improved tremendously. The rise in their battle prowess was extremely huge. This pressured the two young men even more. Su Xianghua entered Supreme Emperor Heaven a few days earlier than us, and he is a very clever fellow. I reckon he has already grasped the marvel of Supreme Emperor Heaven's cultivation and passed the test of God Suppression Pagoda with ease. They walked into the city and saw numerous school halls of Heavenly Saint Academy on both sides of the street. The scholars inside them were listening to the path of cultivation being taught by strong practitioners of Divine Bridge Realm and the gods of Supreme Emperor Heaven. Cult Master Qin really knows how to grab onto personal benefits. Dao Master Lin Xian was stunned for a moment. Then he said to the old Taoists and nuns beside him, "Our Tao sect is too shut off. We have to learn Supreme Emperor Heaven's path of cultivation. Otherwise, we will never be able to raise our heads from under the pressure of Heavenly Saint Cult. Cult Master Qin's methods are good, and as long as they're useful, we shall learn from them." Dan Yangzi and the rest acknowledged. After passing by a palace, they heard Buddha voices reverberating in the air. Inside, eminent monks of Great Thunderclap Monastery were sitting in a hall. In the center of them was Rulai Ma. Numerous eminent monks chanted the Buddha incantations and layers of Buddha heavens hovered above their heads. The 20 heavens became more and more real. The Buddhas, gods, bodhisattvas on each heaven grew discernible, as if they were walking into reality from emptiness. "Senior uncle, what are they doing?" Wang Muran asked Hermit Qingyu. "Opening a passage to Buddha realm," Hermit Qingyu explained. According to the records of Little Jade Capital, Buddhism has its own world which is called Heavens of Buddhism. During founding Emperor era, numerous Buddhas levitated heavenwards to Heavens of Buddhism and left Great Thunderclap Monastery. After founding Emperor era ended, the road to Buddha realm was broken. With even the sky being fake since it was a huge seal, it was natural for them to be unable to go to Buddha realm. However, the world barrier of Supreme Emperor Heaven is incomparably thin, so Rulai Ma must be planning to open up the Heavens of Buddhism here and establish contact with the ancient Buddhas. Rulai Ma is planning to find the follow-up technique to Rulai's Mahayana Sutra? Long Yu asked. Hermit Qingyu nodded. Most likely. Rulai's Mahayana Sutra can only be cultivated to 20 heavens. The moment anyone enters the Buddha realm, there are no more follow-up techniques. Rulai Ma's has great ambitions, so he must be doing this for the path of cultivation to the heavens after Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Dao Master Lin Xian was very envious and asked Dan Yangzi, "Senior uncle, does our Dao sect have a Dao realm?" Dan Yangzi shook his head. "I've never heard of one before." Dao Master Lin Xian's shoulders slumped, and he sighed. When the ancestors don't work hard, the descendants suffer. Weren't the past Dao masters too indifferent to worldly rewards? If we don't work hard, we are going to be defeated by Great Thunderclap Monastery. How are we going to continue to be the sacred ground of Taoism? Dao sect can't continue being so slack. Dan Yangzi whispered, "Dao Master, even though our Dao sect doesn't have heavens like Dao realm, we have gods that attained the Dao hiding in everyone else's heavens. This Supreme Emperor Heaven is also a big heaven, so it should have experts of our Dao sect. As long as we find one, we will be able to complete the cultivation system of our Tao sect's Taoism and make the 14 writings of Tao Sword complete. We can even receive the complete pre-celestial supreme mystery technique. Tao Master Lin Xian's spirit rose, but he soon became dejected once again. There's definitely no experts of our Tao sect here. Otherwise, how would the algebra here be so bad? While they were speaking, a god of Supreme Emperor Heaven walked over while wearing a Tao robe and holding a horsetail whisk in his hand. With an air of an immortal, he asked, "Are fellow friends people of Tao sect?" Tao Master Lin Xian and the rest of the Taoists of Tao sect were overjoyed. Lin Xian hurriedly returned the greeting and asked in a trembling voice, "Junior Lin Xian is ashamed to be the Tao Master of Tao sect. Is Senior an expert who had attained the Tao of our Tao sect?" Delighted, the god of Supreme Emperor Heaven said, "You are indeed from Tao sect. I'm also considered from Tao sect. My name is Cha, while name in religion is Taoist Cha. I was originally a strange beast guarding the gates of Kunlun, but when the disaster struck, I followed Taoist Qing Tian to attain the Tao. After he died in battle, I remained in this Supreme Emperor Heaven." All of the Taoists stared with their eyes wide open, not knowing what to do. Apparently, there was indeed an expert of Tao sect in Supreme Emperor Heaven, but he was a strange beast who had guarded the gate before attaining the Tao. This meant that he wasn't proficient in pre-celestial supreme mystery technique and Tao sword. That was because all of Tao sect's ultimate arts were built on top of the foundation of algebra. And since Supreme Emperor Heaven's algebra was so bad, it was completely impossible for any profound algebra to have been passed down. Taoist Cha had to have mostly relied on other techniques to attain the Tao. The Taoists were all disappointed, but Tao Master Lin Xian forced a smile. "It's been hard on Senior Cha these years. Could Senior make things convenient for us and help our Tao sect settle down? These few are Tao friends of Little Jade Capital, and they temporarily also don't have a place to settle down." Taoist Cha smiled at them. "This is simple." Cult Master Qin and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor instructed that as long as those who come are friends from Eternal Peace, we must not be complacent. Come to think of it, you guys know Cult Master Qin, right? Truly a strange man. His reputation is illustrious in our Supreme Emperor Heaven, and his position is extraordinary. I've heard he is even the Heavenly Saint Cult Master, born as a saint and the famous Overlord body. Many people admire his reputation, and so have gone to seek a place in Heavenly Saint Cult. Tao Master Lin Xian looked at him with a weird expression while cursing in his heart. Isn't it just a devil cult? Heavenly Saint Cult started from Heavenly Teacher who is extremely famous, but our Tao sect can't be pushed down by them. That's right, before Taoist Tianqing died in battle, he left some things with me. I have always kept them safe, said Taoist Cha. Tales of Herding Gods. Chapter 577 Silly Roe Deers. Tao Master Lin Xian and the rest were delighted. Taoist Cha took off the Tao crown from his head and gently spun the yin-yang taiji diagram on it. He took out some books, a fork, and a few pieces of stone wall with sword traces on them. The fork was probably his divine weapon. I have always kept these books with me, but I don't understand their strange symbols, he said. Thick white hair grew from the front of his head to the back while the hair at his temples was black in color. Unlike other Taoists who had their hair worn in a coil, he had a flat-top haircut. The white hair on the top of his head was shaved neatly and made him look very lively. The flat-top Taoist stabbed the fork back into his Tao crown and sealed it up with the Taiji seal before putting the crown back on his head. Tao Master Lin Xian flipped through the books and examined the sword traces on the stone slabs. His heart pounded furiously, and he couldn't help shedding a tear. My master and the past Tao masters have been studying the 14th sword for their entire lives, but they could never comprehend it completely. It turns out that the profound theory didn't lie in the sword, but in the astronomical phenomenon. If Master was still alive, he would have been very glad. Numerous Taoists remembered the past Tao Master and cried. Once Tao Master Lin Xian glanced through the books, he passed them to everyone. They contained Pre-Celestial Supreme Mystery Technique and the learnings of Taoist Qing Tian after he had studied the follow-up sword skills of Tao Sword. Taoist Tian Qing had recorded everything in fine detail, and his calculations were very meticulous. It was no wonder then that Taoist Cha couldn't understand them. Senior Uncle Qingyu, does our little jade capital have any profound inheritance? Wang Muran asked in a low voice. Hermit Qingyu shook his head. We don't. Isn't our little jade capital the #1 sacred ground in eternal peace? Dao Sect and Great Thunderclap Monastery both have even more profound inheritances. But our little jade capital doesn't. So how are we supposed to fight against them? Even Heavenly Saint Cult has a heavenly teacher, so how could our little jade capital not have god-level techniques passed down by strong practitioners like Jade Emperor and so on? Wang Muran said with anger his voice. Our little jade capital has always stood aloof from worldly affairs and never fought for the title of the #1 sacred ground. Hermit Qingyu said patiently. It is a false reputation that the people of the world have given us. It'd be better if we didn't have it. Wang Muran was speechless from anger, and he could only turn to ask Taoist Cha from helplessness. Taoist, may I ask where is Cult Master? Cult Master Qin? Many people have been looking for him today, and they are all weird people. There's even one riding on a bull. However, Cult Master is not in Li City currently. He left a bit earlier saying he was going over to the Devils to train his mount. Wang Muran cried out in astonishment. He went to the territory of the Devils alone? Not really. My Supreme Emperor Heaven has already taken back some territory, and we constructed a sentry tower in without embroiling city. God Sangyi is stationed there. Numerous divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven and Eternal Peace are all searching for devil soldiers scattered around there. Taoist Cha explained. There have been no battles recently, so it's still quite peaceful. The armies have yet to make their moves, so it's just the divine arts practitioners of the devils and humans challenging each other at the border. Cult Master Qin will be fine. What he was talking about was an unwritten rule of Supreme Emperor Heaven. Martial custom was prosperous in it, and both devils and humans respected martial power. When there were no large-scale battles, the divine arts practitioners of both sides would roam around, and numerous young devil and human divine arts practitioners would exchange blows. Gods and devils would rarely interfere, allowing the trainees on both sides to clash. This was an extreme way to train the younger generation. It was a well-known thing here, but since had come to Supreme Emperor Heaven for the first time, he still didn't know it. Has Cult Master Qin passed the test of God Suppression Pagoda? Wang Muran asked. Why would he need to? Taoist Cha's expression filled with admiration. The moment he came to Supreme Emperor Heaven, he killed 4 greatest experts in the bet for Li City and forced true devil Fu Riluo's proudest disciple to admit defeat. After that, he became a legend. Later, he was kidnapped by Fu Riluo, escaped and ran for 100,000 miles, while nearly killing all of the 6 Directions and 7 Stars Realms disciples of the devil gods. There were even quite a number of Celestial Being Realms disciples that had died under his hands. With Cult Master Qin's abilities, there's no need for him to pass the test of God Suppression Pagoda. Wang Muran's body trembled violently as his expression filled with disbelief. He suddenly turned his head. Senior Uncle, do we really not have any profound inheritance? Hermit Qingyu smiled at him. Aren't the inheritance of our little jade capital good enough? Even though it has flaws, it has only top-notch techniques. As long as the flaws are patched, you won't be any inferior to Tao Master. And Supreme Emperor Heaven is a good place to do that. You can learn from the strong points of other people and fuse them with the techniques of our little jade capital. There are so many techniques in little jade capital. How could it be an easy task to fuse all of them? Wang Muran muttered to himself. Hermit Qingyu looked at him with encouragement. When there's a will, there's a way. I view you highly. After you comprehend them well, teach them to me first. I'm old and my mind isn't as clever as that of youngsters like you. Young master, why hasn't Fatty Dragon morphed like Zhang Miao? Between without embroiling city and Li City, there were over 2,000 miles of land. Hu Linger followed beside Qin Mu and looked at the Dragon Qilin fighting with a strong devil practitioner of Celestial Being Realm. Zhang Miao could morph, so Fatty Dragon should be able to do it too. Qin Mu took in a deep breath. An Overlord Body 3 elixir technique circulated in his body, while his vital chi gave off dragon roars. I also don't know. Could he be too fat and unable to morph? It doesn't look like it. I think it's because he is still too lazy. The Qilin bead was extremely strong, so his cultivation was no longer any inferior to that of great experts of life and death realm, yet his overall battle power wasn't high. He was covered in injuries from fighting with a single strong devil practitioner. Qin Mu didn't help but just stood on the side and watched. The other devil expert side also didn't interfere. They just stood and watched the battle. The rules of Supreme Emperor Heaven were very strange. As long as it was an encounter between divine arts practitioners, they would usually fight one-on-one and rarely swarm up. When Qin Mu was escaping for his life during the 100,000 miles and was chased by numerous devil divine arts practitioners, it was different however. The reason behind why the devils didn't abide by the rules and kept swarming him was because the devil gods had laid down an order for him to be killed. The dragon Qilin fought hard. A bit later, he suddenly comprehended the marvel of ancestral dragon supreme mystery technique. He then instantly executed his Qilin bead and changed Qilin fire into countless dragon-shaped flames. They swept at his opponent. Next, his body shook, and the dragon scales flew up, transforming into bright mirrors to reflect the divine art of the opponent. The strong devil practitioner was flustered by having to face his own divine art and the fire dragons. Suddenly, dragon scales flipped over and swirled around him furiously. The strong devil practitioner couldn't unleash any attack, for all divine arts were reflected back by the scales. The area in which they swirled became smaller and smaller. The Qilin bead flew into the surrounded area and shone brightly with flames. A miserable shriek came from inside, and the strong devil practitioner was burned to ashes. The dragon Qilin shook his body and called back his dragon scales. He swallowed down the Qilin bead with surprised delight. He cried out, "Cult Master! I've won! I've finally won for the first time!" Qin Mu was suspicious. Linger. When Fatty Dragon was cultivating with senior brother Tiger, he had never won even once? Hu Linger nodded. Not even once. The Black Tiger God said he was embarrassing at first and wanted him to kowtow and apologize to the devils that had defeated him. Afterwards, the Black Tiger God got used to it, and Fatty Dragon also got used to it. Qin Mu was speechless. The dragon Qilin arrogantly scampered over on the tips of his feet, his tail held up high. He walked a few rounds around Qin Mu and Hu Linger, very pleased with himself. A devil expert walked over from the other side and called out, "Are you Cult Master Qin Mu?" "It is I." "May I ask who you are?" Qin Mu said. "A nameless person, farewell." The devil experts separated and left in a hurry, and Qin Mu frowned slightly. The devils were all strong practitioners of celestial being realm, so it would have been very difficult to defeat them by himself. Yet they had made the unwise decision to separate. Wasn't this giving him a chance to get rid of at least one of them? "Young master." The devils seemed to be escaping for their lives. Hu Linger took out a huge basin for him to produce some dragon saliva which she would apply on his body. With suspicion, she said, "If they combined their powers together, their abilities would probably be greater than ours." Yet they fled without a word. Could they be trying to pass information? For safety reasons, we should return to Li City immediately. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows. If we walk forward, we will reach the sentry of Without Embroiling City. We are too far from Li City. The sentry tower is closer. With God Xianxia, mere devils won't dare to come over. He jumped onto the back of the dragon Qilin, and Hu Linger did the same with her basin. The dragon Qilin immediately sprinted toward Without Embroiling City. There were still 200 miles away, but Qin Mu could already see God Xianxia's aura from afar. It was the divine light giving off by God Xianxia, and it reached the clouds like a pillar. That was the purpose of a sentry, to show a safe point for Supreme Emperor Heaven's divine arts practitioners that were in the wilderness. If they were in danger, they could head there for protection. Suddenly, a voice filled with delight rang out. "Are you Cult Master Qin?" A small mountain was village in the wilderness around them. There were a few divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven resting their feet there. They were the only people around. The group consisted of familiar faces. One of the girls was called Guan He, who had been introduced to Qin Mu by Yu He, and she was an expert of celestial being realm. She was ranked 9 in Supreme Emperor Heaven on her level, and her abilities were extremely strong. She was the disciple of a god and was proficient in sword skills. Because Qin Mu was expanding Heavenly Saint Cult in Supreme Emperor Heaven, he had appointed Guan He as the Hall Master of Sword Hall of the new branch. Guan He, why are you guys here? Qin Mu jumped down from the back of the Dragon Qilin and looked to the other divine arts practitioners. They were also Hall Masters and Incense Masters of Supreme Emperor Heaven's Heavenly Saint Cult. It's really Cult Master, Guan He said with a smile. We were training in the vicinity when we encountered some devil experts. One of them was extremely strong, so I had to fight with all I had before executing him. Qin Mu looked in the direction she had pointed and recognized the devil expert as one of those who had escaped. There were still signs of a hard battle in the surroundings. I see. Qin Mu smiled at her. Hall Master Guan, it was hard on you. The sky is almost dark and I'm planning to head to the sentry. Do you guys want to tag along? Guan He's eyes lit up, and she walked over with a smile on her face. We were also planning on going back. The other people came too, and Qin Mu headed at the front of the group to the sentry in without embroiling city. Guan He hurriedly came to his side and said with a smile, Why is Cult Master in such a hurry? We are all experts of the cult, so how could we be afraid of anyone? I was recognized by the devils, and I'm afraid they would inform strong practitioners to intercept me up ahead. Qin Mu smiled at the girl then. Hall Master Guan, who is your master again? When He introduced you to me, I had forgotten to ask. My master is Tian Fingo. Cult Master has met her before. So it's Goddess Tian Fingo. Qin Mu nodded and turned to rest with curiosity. Hall and Incense Masters, what about your masters? We are also disciples of Tian Fingo, one youth said. Qin Mu nodded again and patted the thick neck of the Dragon Qilin beside him while saying with a smile, Hall Master Guan, when you guys were fighting with that strong devil practitioner of celestial being realm, you must have ended the battle quickly. Looking at the traces of divine arts you guys left behind, they aren't from fatal attacks even if they're not simple. The true fatal blow was the sword that pierced the devil's back, killing his primordial spirit straight away. Back then, the distance between Hall Master Guan and that devil expert should have been as close as we are now. From this close-up, Hall Master Guan had killed him. Guan He's expression changed slightly, and a huge Qilin bead suddenly rose into the sky. In an instant, blazing Qilin flames were everywhere, incinerating everything. Among the flames, a flying sword rushed out. Just as the woman executed her sword skill, Qin Mu tapped with his sword fingers the heart of his brows. His sword pellet transformed into dazzling sword light that swept forward, crushing Guan He's sword skill and the heart of her brows.
Tales of Hurting Gods. Chapter 578. The buck headbutts while the doe blinks. Qin Mu took out Sun Jade-Eye and Moon Jade-Eye in a hurry and erected them behind him. At the same time, flags danced around him, confining all life forms in a radius of 10 steps into the formation. Those were teleportation flags. He needed some time to use the teleportation divine art, so teleportation flags were much more convenient, since he could activate them in an instant and teleport further away. He had made them escape any attacks from gods and devils, so he would be less prone to falling into a situation similar to when he was captured by Fu Riluo. Even though the teleportation flags were only slightly faster, the slight amount of time could save lives. To his surprise, just as the teleportation flags swirled and the runes on them lit up, they suddenly exploded into pieces. The torn cloth fluttered in the air like butterflies. Only flagpoles were left in the ground. The speed of a god is much faster than I anticipated. Qin Mu didn't waste any time as he activated the 2 Jade Eyes. The Qi of Supreme Yin transformed into moonlight while the Qi of Supreme Yang transformed into sunlight, and they were both incomparably intense. The 2 Jade Eyes were in his hands, and he was ready to welcome the enemy anytime. The beams of the Jade Eyes were thick, and they would sweep through everything in front of him. When the pupils of the 2 Jade Eyes expanded, they didn't have much power and could only be used as a light source. However, as long as Qin Mu's palms controlled their nerve system, He could change the formations within and condense the light of the two stars into one line. The two lines of light had the power to injure even gods. He had tested it long ago on the body of dragon-rearing sovereign. Qin Mu examined his surroundings while saying in a solemn voice, "Could you be goddess Tianfengou?" "It is I." A woman in snow-white clothing slowly walked over into the moonlight of sun jade eye, and she was a truly beautiful woman. Her hair was coiled into buns before being piled on top of her head, leaning slightly to one side. The movement of her dress was captivating, and the palace cloth on her upper body was quite loose, but her waist was very slender, so slender that an arm could go around it. She had a kind of different bearing, and her eyes were cold. It was as if there was nothing in this world that could move her heart. The corners of Qin Mu's eyes twitched. If such a woman made up her mind about something, it would be very difficult to change. The silly roe deers beside him were completely unafraid of Tianfengou, who was walking over. They continued to bite on his clothes while licking them with their tongues. There were even a few silly roe deers raising their heads to look at him curiously while a male roe deer bayed at him. Qin Mu acted as if he was facing a great enemy and stared nervously at Tianfengou, not daring to miss any of her movements. However, the roe deers were pulling too hard, so he had no choice but to pull his clothes back out from their mouths. You. A few male roe deers were angered and they lowered their heads to headbutt him. One of them moved a step back after doing it once to gather energy once again, while another followed in his steps. Qin Mu stood as steady as a mountain and let the roe deers headbutt him over and over again. No wonder Grandmaster wanted to attach deer legs to himself. These roe deers are too good at tormenting people. Tianfengou swept a glance at the roe deers that were attacking Qin Mu, and her gaze fell onto the two jade eyes. "Doesn't Cult Master Qin owe me an explanation for killing my disciples? And all of them at once? I only had these few disciples whom I had taught diligently, and yet they were all killed by Cult Master Qin in one go. Even if you are the disciple of Heavenly Teacher, you still have to make yourself clear. Looks like Goddess Tianfengou has no idea what her disciples have done." The nervous expression on Qin Mu's face vanished, and he let out a huge sigh of relief. With a sincere gaze, he said, "Fengou, your disciple Guan He and the rest had submitted themselves to the devil race and tried to harm me. I had no choice but to be ruthless or my life would have been endangered." Tianfengou gave an "oh" and said, "Cult Master Qin said my disciples submitted to the devil race, so you definitely have evidence, right?" Qin Mu slowly moved back while holding on to the jade eyes. "Goddess Fengou, please follow me." He walked back step by step, the two jade eyes firmly held in his hands so he could react any time. The dragon Qilin also walked back while carrying the little fox. From behind, the 9 silly roe deers were still headbutting them foolishly. They were very stubborn. Qin Mu slowly moved back to the small mountain village and said solemnly, "Fengou, please take a look."
Tianfengou looked at the corpse of the strong devil practitioner of Celestial Being Realm, and her pupils contracted. The traces of divine arts here belong to Fengou's disciples, right? This isn't the divine art of one person, but 5. Guan He had told me she fought bitterly with this devil expert and only managed to kill him after some effort, so why are there divine arts of 5 people here? It's also possible that Guan He wanted to claim credit, Tianfengou said indifferently. Can't Goddess Fengou see the lethal blow on the corpse? You are a sword skill expert, so you should be able to see it. For someone to stab the primordial spirit so swiftly, the 2 people have to be an extremely close distance, Qin Mu said solemnly. From the expression of the corpse, he absolutely didn't expect Guan He to lay her hands on him, so he was shocked. Guan He was so close and he didn't put his guard up, allowing his primordial spirit to be slain, so how could the 2 have been enemies? Since they weren't opponents, they had to be friends. Goddess Fengou's disciples had allied themselves with the devils. Is there any need for more evidence? Tianfengou's gaze flickered, and she said softly, I'm still slightly puzzled. Since they were in cahoots with the devils, why did Guan He had to kill that devil? That's because she wanted to use the life of this devil expert to gain my trust, Qin Mu said. Only like that could she get close to me successfully. Goddess Fengou, look again. Are there any devil divine arts here? If it was a fight, why did this devil expert die before he could unleash even one divine art? With your eyesight, it surely isn't hard to see this. Tianfengou was expressionless. And then, the traces of divine arts here show that the battle was very intense, yet no divine art damaged this small mountain village here. They haven't even touched it. This means that the 5 of them were all involved. At that time, they had cast their divine arts from this small mountain village to destroy the scene. This certainly can be counted as evidence, right? Tianfengou let out a shaky breath and a smile spread on her expressionless face. She said softly, "Cult Master Qin is wise and impartial. Looks like my disciples have indeed submitted to the devil race. I was negligent in choosing my disciples and have nearly caused huge trouble." Hu Linger's face was full of suspicion, but Qin Mu looked as though a burden had dropped off his shoulders and said with a smile, "I can't blame someone that's kept in the dark. The devils are the evil ones, and they are incomparably sly. Goddess Fengou was only blinded by them for a time. You will realize it in the future and place righteousness before family." Behind him, the silly roe deers were still headbutting him. Qin Mu rubbed his buttocks that were searing with pain. "These roe deers sure are ruthless and tough." Tianfengou was still smiling at him. "Since the misunderstanding is resolved, I won't be disturbing. Who's there?" Her voice became slightly piercing to the ears, but just as she spoke, God Xianxia's voice rang out. "Fengou, don't be mistaken, it's me." Qin Mu finally relaxed, and the hands that were holding onto the jade eyes loosened up. His palms were clammy from cold sweat. Hu Linger also felt like a burden had dropped off her shoulders and said softly, "Young master." Qin Mu shook his head. "Not now." He had noticed some time ago that the divine light given off by God Xianxia had suddenly vanished from the Sentry Inn without embroiling city. The god had to have discovered the activity here. After all, Qin Mu had killed Guan He with the first form of Calamity Sword. Opening Calamity was extremely huge, and 10 miles of sword light had burst forth nearly in an instant. It would have been hard for God Xianxia not to notice something like that. The god had seen this move by Qin Mu before, so he would definitely rush over when he saw it. That was because opponents that required Qin Mu to use Calamity Sword would definitely be remarkable enemies. When he came over to check, it no longer mattered if Tianfengou was a spy for the devil race or not. Whatever the case, Qin Mu was safe. When he had moved back step by step, walking to the small mountain village, it might have looked like he was explaining things to Tianfengou, but he had actually been doing that for God Xianxia. "So it's senior brother Xianxia." Tianfengou relaxed, her expression calming down. "Cult Master Qin and I had some misunderstanding earlier, but it's all resolved now." God Xianxia walked over and said, "It's great that the misunderstanding is resolved, but there's a matter that makes me very confused. Why did all the disciples of Senior Sister Fengou submit to the devils? It'd be normal if one had done so when faced with a choice of life and death, since it's hard for one to stay true to good or evil in such situation. But when a whole family betrays their land, it's somewhat strange." Tianfengou raised her eyebrows and said, "What does God Xianxia think about this?" God Xianxia walked past Qin Mu and stopped before Tianfengou. "When all 5 disciples submit to the devils, it's hard not to suspect that Master might have done so as well. Fengou was once the mistress of Coupling City, right? 1,500 years ago, when it was invaded, only you and a small number of your people lived. On the other hand, when my nearing city was invaded, even though my whole family died in battle, leaving only me and my daughter as sole survivors, I had protected quite a number of nearing city's commoners. There were 10 times more survivors." He put his hands behind his back. "There's also adorning, returning, concording people, great possessing, and other god cities that I know about. There were many more survivors in them than in Fengou's Coupling City." Qin Mu's gaze flickered, and he looked at the palms behind God Xianxia's back. They were making some strange gestures which meant that the situation was urgent and they should leave immediately. Could God Xianxia not be Tianfengou's match? Qin Mu was astonished, but he still gave a cough. "Two gods. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be taking my leave now." The direction in which he was leaving was in God Xianxia's shadow. As he moved back step by step, he never stepped from Xianxia's back, as this was the only way he could avoid Tianfengou's gaze. Cult Master Qin is planning to go to Without Embroiling City? Are you sure God Xiangyi is not the traitor? Why did my disciples that had betrayed us stay so close to Without Embroiling City? The one guarding the sentry is God Xiangyi, and if he's the traitor, you will just be delivering yourself into the enemy's hands. There will definitely be a devil god waiting there for you. You are so clever, so you won't put yourself in any danger, right? Hu Linger's head became heavy, and she felt that her mind just wasn't fast enough. She asked in a low voice, "Young master, which one of them is the traitor?" Tianfengou spoke again. God Xiangyi had initiated building a sentry in Without Embroiling City, right? The sentry is right in the devil territory, and it has already been more than half a month since it was finished. But there have been no devil gods coming to find trouble. Is your luck just that good? Or is there something else? Qin Mu stopped, his head also feeling heavy. It was indeed strange that no devil god had come to find trouble with God Xiangyi even after he had built a sentry in the devil territory. Tianfengou continued, "Even though not many people of my coupling city survived, there were still 2 other gods besides me. How many gods of your nearing city survived? Not one besides you, right? Could they all have died under the hands of devil gods? Where are those 2 senior brothers that walked out from coupling city with you? According to what I know, even though they left the city, they died in the battle for Without Embroiling City. And just like that, you are also the only one that had survived coupling city," Xiangyi said calmly. Hu Linger hugged her 6 tails. "Young master, I'm already giddy." Qin Mu looked at her. "Me too. But there's still one method to determine who's the traitor, and that's to go to the ruins of Without Embroiling City. If God Xiangyi is really a traitor, there will definitely be strong practitioners of the devil race waiting for us to deliver ourselves there. If there aren't." Just as he said that, a huge body descended from the sky on his right. It was a devil god. The corners of Qin Mu's eyes twitched slightly. He had seen this devil god twice before. The first time was in the Battle of Nearing City, where he had killed everyone in Xianxia's family. The second time was in Li City. On that day, he and Sanghua had been brought to Li City by the Black Tiger god, and Sanghua had kept staring at that devil god. He had flame markings on his body, and his eyes were like 2 dancing fires. When he descended, the 3 god existences stood like the 3 legs of a tripod. Devil god Huachaluo came from your Without Embroiling City, right? Tianfengou said in a soft voice. God Xiangyi's pupils contracted suddenly, and he gritted his teeth. Huachaluo killed my whole family besides my daughter. How could I submit to the devil race to him? Huachaluo frowned slightly. His voice boomed and shook the forest. Now that the matter has come to this, why do we still need to hide when we are 2 against 1? Just shed all pretense and end this quickly. Respectable King Fu Riluo can no longer wait to see this brat with the surname Qin. The surroundings went silent. After a moment, Tianfengou laughed gently. Cult Master Qin likes to deduce the truth from clues, so I wanted to play with him, to laugh at him and play with his heart. Isn't that what a devil god likes to do? Qin Mu's blood went cold. Tianfengou smiled and said, Huachaluo, you shall take down Cult Master Qin. I will send God Xiangyi on his way. Huachaluo turned his head to look at Qin Mu, who moved back nervously. He suddenly heard a thump and felt a searing pain as one of the silly roe deer head butt him again. In anger, he drew his sword and placed it on the neck of the male roe deer while saying ruthlessly, "Hit me again and I'll kill you." Tianfengou chuckled and pounced at God Xiangyi. At the same time, Huachaluo bent over with a grin as he stretched his hand out to grab Qin Mu. You were that black shadow in Nearing City that day? You were the one who protected the lassie of Sang family, right? How heroic, I couldn't even kill you. However, trying escaping now. The roe deer under Qin Mu's sword suddenly burst apart, and an incomparably breathtaking knife light shone through the forest. It even split apart the sky. The knife light passed through Huachaluo's palm and neck, leaving behind an incomparably fine black line in the sky. The thinnest of the black line was inconceivable, like there was none of it. It looked like space had been sliced apart and didn't have the time to heal. The breathtaking knife light then suddenly stopped before Qin Mu's neck, and a tall and sturdy elder stood up from the roe deer skin that had split apart. He was fierce-looking and had a messy beard that grew furiously in all directions. The elder's face was full of anger, and he held the knife at Qin Mu's neck while grumbling furiously. "Muer, so what if I headbutt you? Cripple, blind, and mute were the ones that kept headbutting you. I just did it once and you wanted to kill me. Tell me, aren't you biased? Do you think they love you more dearly than I do?" Tales of Hurting Gods. Chapter 579, Improper Origins. Qin Mu hurriedly pulled back his sword and looked at the tall elder in front of him in surprise and delight. He cried out happily, "Grandpa Butcher!" Before he even finished speaking, the other roe deers burst apart, and their figures rushed into the sky to intercept Tianfengo, who was rushing at God Xianxia. Her sword light was already stabbing forward, so she had no time to change her move. A long spear transformed into a black dragon to disturb the sword light. Tianfengo's body trembled violently. The black dragon kept aiming for the backbone of her sword moves, causing her magic power to be cut off repeatedly and making it tough for her to unleash her power. She was proficient in the sword path, and her attainments in the sword skills could be considered top 1 or top 2 in Supreme Emperor Heaven. Of course, that was before Qin Mu had established access between Supreme Emperor Heaven and Eternal Peace. When Eternal Peace's sword skills were imparted to Supreme Emperor Heaven, her sword skills could no longer be considered at the very top. In Eternal Peace Empire, there were way too many experts whose sword skills surpassed hers. What made her terrified was that the black dragon spear could actually break her strength with little power, shattering her magic. The stars in the sky shone and weaved great overarching heavenly stars force field. The moment she and the black dragon spear collided again, it suddenly crashed against her chest. This was an unusual kind of divine art that used stars and astrology as a divine art. In regards to the transformation of divine arts, Eternal Peace's divine arts surpassed Supreme Emperor Heaven by way too much. Tianfengo vomited blood with a grunt and stepped back in a hurry. Suddenly, though, she felt a chill in her heart. At some point in time, the elder with the knife had come behind her. By backing, she had walked right into his knife, stabbing herself through the back. The power of the knife wasn't strong, so it was obvious that the honest-looking elder was only proficient in backstabbing. He was lacking real power in his moves. Tianfengo swept her sword backward, but before the sword light could sweep the elder behind her, another old man, this one carrying a furnace, hit her with a hammer. Flames rose from the furnace on his back. The strike had actually been incomparably heavy. His power was terrifying. From that one strike, Tianfengo's bones and tendons broke, and she tumbled to the ground before bouncing back up and landing down again for a couple of times. Her abilities were exceptional, even surpassing those of God Xianxia, so she still wasn't dead. She knew she had fallen into an ambush and was definitely not a match for so many experts, so she immediately chose to escape. She leaped 100 miles away, then turned around to see an incomparably tall elder raising his palm to sweep the sky. Tianfengo was stunned. The elder had a pair of bright iron ears and incredibly tall. He was much taller than true gods and devils, and he could actually fold up the space in which she was in. It's impossible for him to have such terrifying magic power. As she thought that, she realized that the iron-eared elder wasn't folding up space. Instead, after she was severely injured by the old blacksmith, she had fallen into a painting. Now she was fleeing through it. Tianfengo immediately executed her divine sword to tear open space, and the painting instantly tore apart. One sword light flew straight for the face of the iron-eared elder. He looked incomparably tall, and his abilities were world-shaking, but his abilities were actually lacking as well. When he saw the sword light rushing over, he knew he couldn't fight it and turned to leave. The black dragon spear suddenly struck forward and scattered the move of Tianfengo's divine sword. She jumped out of the painting and met a sturdy man wearing sable fur and riding a green bull. His knife skills were matchless, and his moves were complicated. He was using knife skills she had never seen before, and the spells hidden inside them had extraordinary power. She had underestimated it and instantly suffered. The knife light flashed, and her right hand, which was holding the sword, got severed by brute force. Blood spurted and scattered in the air. Tianfingo grunted and caught her sword with her left hand. She was about to stab at the sturdy man riding the green bull, but she saw a peerless beauty clenching her palm. With her move, space broke down and shrunk. Tianfingo's body instantly flew towards the palm against her will. Boom! The old blacksmith rushed over and struck her head with his hammer, stunning her while the short elder broke the moves of her divine sword with his black dragon spear. The sword lights turned weirdly in the air and stabbed her chest. Bang! Her face smacked against the palm of the peerless beauty, and great overarching heavenly stars' palm force exploded, turning her face into a bloody mess. The hands of the beauty moved quickly, sliding through her body as they sealed her primordial spirit and soul. Tianfingo fell to the ground with her primordial spirit unable to escape. It was sealed in her broken body. She still hadn't breathed her last, but her gaze was dim. At that moment, a bronze-masked man rushed to her side and stabbed silver needles into her body. As he spoke, his voice sounded further and further away. "With me around, she can't die. Don't worry. We can just restrain her soul and pull it out for interrogation later." God Xianxia stood in a daze, not knowing what had just happened. Before he could even fight Tianfingo, she was already settled by the weird newcomers. However, Tianfingo had been an extremely powerful existence. Even though her power was inferior to that of a true god, she wasn't too far from it. He was definitely not her match. Xianxia was prepared to sacrifice himself for righteousness at any time, but it was a pity that Qin Mu would most likely have to die with him. Luckily though, the weird people had popped out from somewhere and fought messily until they severely injured Tianfingo and sealed her. Otherwise, he and Qin Mu would have definitely died. To the side, Qin Mu carefully pushed away the huge knife next to his neck. Butcher grunted, and the huge knife remained in its place. Qin Mu pushed again, but Butcher still didn't allow for it to be moved. It was obvious he was still angry. "Grandpa Butcher, you had cloaked yourself with the skin of a roe deer. Granny's spell is so exquisite that I couldn't see through it and didn't know it was you. If I knew, I wouldn't have held the sword to your neck," Qin Mu said carefully. "I don't care," Butcher said coldly. "I raised you up painstakingly, yet you want to kill me just because I hit your buttocks. My heart is dead." Behind him, Huakaluo's 5 fingers suddenly separated evenly and fell to the ground like meat pillars. "Luo!" A strange sound came from Huakaluo's throat, and he slowly pulled back his arms. He touched his neck shakily, trying to maintain his balance. He didn't dare to move too fast, so his every action was very careful. However, before he could even touch his neck, his head lost its balance and slid off to the side. Huakaluo's hands became even faster, and he made a grab for the head. Bang! A loud clap rang out as his 2 hands collided above his neck. When his head fell to the side, blood spurted from his neck, dyeing his hands red. What a quick knife! Huakaluo's head let out an ear-piercing scream and tumbled 2 rounds on the ground before flames in his eyes finally extinguished. Qin Mu was very envious and praised. "Grandpa Butcher's divine knife has reached perfection. I'm inferior. Stop licking my boots." Butcher had a gloomy face, and his hand didn't move at all. His knife was still held at Qin Mu's neck. "You're biased and don't love me. You love Mute, Cripple and Blind, those 3 scumbags, but not me. I saw them having fun hitting you, so I tried it once and you wanted to kill me." "Junior brother." Ba Shan jumped from the bull's back and ran over in delight. "Junior brother, you made teacher angry? Teacher has agreed to take me back in as a disciple, but his request is for me to lower my voice a little and talk less. When everyone said they were going to look for you, I said that little junior brother was too smart, so he would never get into any trouble. And see, there was no problem at all. Teacher Heaven Knife, why are you holding the knife to junior brother's throat though? Put it down. We are all one big family, so we can talk things out." Butcher swung his knife and it landed on Grand Chancellor Ba Shan's shoulder. He immediately shut his mouth. His face was all red from holding back his words. "Senior brother Ba Shan, Grandpa Butcher had only feigned his death and didn't kick you out of his family. So why did you have to formally become his disciple again? Qin Mu asked in puzzlement. Ba Shan came to a realization and pushed the knife away. His voice suddenly became twice or more louder as he shouted in anger. Old man, you tricked me. Butcher's ears trembled from the vibration, and he looked at Qin Mu in fury. Qin Mu rubbed his buttocks that were still sore. Blind, mute, and cripple were truly ruthless. His buttocks were almost messed up. I should have long suspected something when these silly roe deers kept headbutting me. Grandpa Mute, Grandpa Blind, and Grandpa Cripple are the meanest, and even Grandpa Butcher has been brought astray by them. Blind walked over with his black dragon spear. Upon reaching Qin Mu, he grinned. Qin Mu looked at him with a black face and went to find Granny C. Blind scratched his head and said angrily, Butcher, you betrayed me. Butcher felt somewhat guilty and scratched his head. When did I? Old Blind, stop accusing me for no reason. Deaf walked over and said, I've heard everything. You betrayed Blind, Mute, and even Cripple. You are deaf. What can you even hear? Butcher burst into laughter from extreme anger. The huge hammer in Mute's hand transformed back into sword pellets that flowed back into the chest. He brought it over and said righteously, ABA. Well said. Cripple clapped. Butcher's mouth has no lock on it. Butcher rolled his eyes and pulled the knife away from Chancellor Ba Shan's neck while saying pleasantly, Ba Shan, this old man can't win against them in talking, so come help me argue. Ba Shan's two fists crackled from him clenching them, and he walked with big steps to the front of everyone. He cleared his throat and was about to open his mouth when God Xianxia said, Are seniors from the celestial heavens? Seniors? Celestial heavens? Blind raised his head and looked at this god. He chuckled. We are from great ruins and not celestial heavens. First, may I ask how old senior brother is? God Xianxia smiled. Great Ruins was founding Emperor Celestial Heavens once. I'm 20,084 years old. Blind leaned back with a grunt. I'm 562 years old. Everyone suddenly felt they were very young and filled with energy. Qin Mu came to Granny C's side and saw her levitating Tianfengo with her magic power. She was using the spells inside great educational heavenly devil scriptures to pull out the primordial spirit of Tianfengo to interrogate it. Apothecary was refining medicine at the side, using anesthesia for the soul to lessen Tianfengo's ability to resist. Great educational heavenly devil scriptures had numerous extremely strange spells. They often looked like they were of the devil path, but they could also be understood with a righteous mind. Qin Mu had done his studies in this field. When God Xianxia looked over, his heart shook a little upon seeing Granny C's spells. These friends from the celestial heavens seem to be from improper origins. They are even so proficient in spells of the devil path. Cult Master Qin also seems like he's from an improper origin.
Tales of Hurting Gods. Chapter 580 Emperor's Throne Technique. Qin Mu looked excitedly at Granny C's divine arts. The 9 elders of disabled elderly village all had their strong points. Besides her beauty, Granny C was known for the exquisiteness of her spells. However, since what she cultivated was the devil path, she hadn't been willing to teach Qin Mu too many spells. She only let village chief, butcher, and old Ma teach him. Afterward, when Qin Mu became the young cult master of heavenly devil cult, she had imparted great educational heavenly devil scriptures to him and allowed him to comprehend them by himself. She didn't teach Qin Mu any techniques or divine arts. This was mainly because she walked the devil path and her comprehension of great educational heavenly devil scriptures was slightly askew. She hoped that if Qin Mu followed deaf, old Ma, and the rest in cultivation and reading the classics, he would have a more proper comprehension of great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Qin Mu was originally indifferent to righteous or devil, but later, he realized that both were born from the heart. When intentions were devilish, no matter how righteous the spell was, it would still be devilish. And if the intentions were righteous, then no matter how devilish the spell was, it would still be righteous. That was why he had basically no problem with going between righteous and devil. After that, Qing Mu discovered that the struggle between righteous and devil was the struggle of the heart, while the one between God and devil was the struggle of standpoint and survival, so he became even more indifferent to the struggle of righteous and devil. In the past, when he fought with Great Thunderclap Monastery, Tao sect, and the other sects, he had long ago abandoned all prejudices and didn't place the struggle of righteous and devil in his heart. Now, he had even opened the divine treasure of the devil path and was halfway into the devil path. His horizons were even broader than before. This was growth. A person usually grows up unknowingly, not realizing it themselves. But when they look back, they would notice that they were growing all the time, their mind becoming more mature. Even if God Xianxia was a god that stood high above, his horizons might not be superior to those of Qing Mu. Other than personal aptitude and comprehension, opportunities were also a part of it. Ever since he was young, Qing Mu had undergone the nurture of the disabled elderly village's 9 elders, then had left great ruins just at the time of Eternal Peace's reform. If his birth and experiences in Yudu and Fengdu were added, his horizons could be said to have risen to an extremely high height. Granny C finally seized the primordial spirit of Tianfengou from her body. It was bound, so she couldn't escape. If it did, it could take over another person's body or even grass or tree spirits. If the god took someone's body, it would be possession, and if she took the body of a grass or tree spirit, it would be different cultivation. Which one of you is going to interrogate her? Granny C asked while turning her head back. She definitely knows many secrets of the devil race, so it would be very useful for Supreme Emperor Heaven if we could get that information out from her. My methods are too cruel and aren't suitable for interrogating her, she's a beauty after all. God Xianxia was introducing himself to Blind and the rest when he heard that and shuddered. He took a glance at Tianfengou's body. Truly ruthless. This woman first flattened Tianfengou's chest before flattening her face as well. His gaze fell on Granny C's face, and he found it hard to avert his gaze. In his heart, the thoughts of finding a stepmother for Xianxia suddenly popped up, but he hurriedly composed himself. He shifted his gaze away, not daring to have any improper thoughts. We should hand the matter of interrogating Tianfengou to true God Pengyu. Tianfengou is a god of my Supreme Emperor Heaven after all, and she was also a leader with a high position. It would be a bit out of place if we interrogate her privately. Cripple chuckled and said, "Why be so troublesome? Let Apothecary feed her some insects and she will definitely confess to everything in just 2 hours. We can also ask Grandpa Blind to use his black dragon speed to separate the spirit embryo and the soul of her primordial spirit, turning her into an ordinary human." Hu Linger said excitedly. Blind stroked her little head and said with a smile, "This spear of mine is called Long Tua. It's not a black dragon spear." That's right. The black dragon spear on his back suddenly came alive and swam around the little fox. The black dragon with only its bones left slowly said, "My name is Long Tua, and I'm a dragon king of the devil race."
And you are completely right. My lord and I can indeed separate her soul from her primordial spirit, though that would be abnormally painful. Hu Linger examined divine spear Long Tua and suddenly thought of an idea. She hurriedly raised her hand up with sparkling eyes. I still have. I thought of another idea. We can ask Grandpa Mute to smelt her in his furnace to turn her primordial spirit into water before pouring molten iron on it. We'll see if she will talk or not. This little fox is also not easy to deal with. God Xianxia shuddered and hurriedly said, "Let me bring her away for interrogation. Gentlemen, I will be leaving first. Without Embroiling City is just in front of us. So may you guys help me guard it for 2 days." After saying so, he grabbed Tianfengou's body and primordial spirit and left in a hurry. Granny, Grandpa Apothecary, why have you all of you guys come to Supreme Emperor Heaven? Qin Mu immediately asked. Granny C raised her hand and stroked his head. Qin Mu immediately lowered his head so Granny C could continue stroking with a smile. You've grown even taller and are about to catch up to Apothecary. If you grow a little higher, Blind will only be able to reach your waist. Blind wasn't very happy to hear that. Granny, my body is still growing. Did you see God Xianxia just now? He's 20,000 years old and his height is terrifying. It shows that the longer you live, the taller you will grow. Granny C rolled her eyes at him. Blind, your intelligence is also only so high. Moor, we came to see you and to look at the methods of cultivation here, to see if we can find a way to break through. We have all reached our bottlenecks, and the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven that you had sent to Heavenly Saint Academy were quite useful. We watched them and learned a little, but if we wanted the whole cultivation system, we still needed to come to Supreme Emperor Heaven to look for more profound methods. Qin Mu had indeed discussed with Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and True God Pang Yu to dispatch some young divine arts practitioners to Eternal Peace to learn the paths, skills, and divine arts. At the same time, they could impart the techniques of Supreme Emperor Heaven to Eternal Peace, patching up where the cultivation of Eternal Peace's techniques was lacking. With the divine arts practitioners on both sides complementing each other, they could all advance at astonishing speed. However, that only applied to divine arts practitioners. To people like Granny C who had already patched her divine bridge and entered the celestial palaces, or strong practitioners that were about to enter the celestial palaces, that wasn't enough. After all, the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven that headed to Eternal Peace to seek knowledge usually didn't have high cultivation. Furthermore, Granny C and the rest required a god-level cultivation system. Qin Mu pondered it for a moment, then said, "In that case, who is in charge of Heavenly Saint Academy now? Heavenly King Shi, Heavenly King Yu, and the rest of them. There's also a few elders there," Granny C said while chuckling. "The scholars of Supreme Emperor Heaven are very dumb and pitifully stupid. They couldn't learn algebra no matter what, so it's best to let the elders and Heavenly Kings of Heavenly Saint Cult have the headache. God Sang Yi asked for our help in guarding without embroiling city, so let's head there." Qin Mu nodded. Everyone was chatting and laughing with one another, so he also quickly forgot about his bloody buttocks and played around with blind, mute, and cripple. The green bull saw the 4 short legs of the dragon Qilin, and his eyes lit up. He scampered over and stood up like a human to walk a couple rounds around him. The dragon Qilin's face turned dark, but he didn't say a word. He continued to walk forward. Divine Spear Long Tuo transformed into the skeleton frame of the black dragon and rattled as it swam in the air. Coming to Hu Linger's side, it thrust its head and lifted the little fox while asking with curiosity, "They have a grudge? How is it only a grudge?" "It's hatred for a seized wife," Hu Linger whispered. She told everything she knew about how the grudge between the dragon Qilin and the green bull had started from the time Qin Mu had entered Imperial College. The green bull was a flirtatious fellow, but he just had to be blind and thought that the dragon Qilin was a female. He harassed him every day when he passed by the mountain gate and even gave him some flowers and grass. The dragon Qilin knew he couldn't defeat Ba Shan, so he could only suffer in silence before bewitching Qin Mu to knock out the green bull with anesthesia. Qin Mu had refined lost fragrance, and when the imperial physicians of Hall of Supreme Healing learned of it, there was quite a havoc. Only then did the green bull learn that the dragon Qilin was a male and was sad for quite some time before going off to flirt with some little cows happily. Of course, the two strange beasts began to feud after such events. The green bull thought the dragon Qilin is a female, but he's a male, so isn't this like the hatred for a seized wife? Hu Linger said. The black dragon trembled his skeletal frame and said in astonishment, "They actually have such a past?" The dragon Qilin looked down, looking calm, but he was twitching his ears. The green bull sneered. "What are you twitching your ears for? Damned fatty, you were very slim and looked like a female. Why have you become so fat now? I can't even see if you are walking on your feet or rolling on your stomach. Look at me." He bent his arm and all the muscles on his body popped out as he sneered. "These are muscles, and what you have is only fat. Fighting makes you bold and powerful only when you are like me. Each of my punches uses all of my muscles, and every strike is powerful." The dragon Qilin narrowed his eyes and opened its mouth, spitting out a Qilin bead that had a radius of 2 feet. The bead blazed furiously in mid-air, lighting up the surroundings. The green bull shuddered and fell back a step, transforming back into a big green bull. With his tail tucked between his legs, he slipped back to Ba Shan's side. The dragon Qilin opened his mouth to recall the Qilin bead and sneered. "Fats? Do you know how much effort it took to refine such a big Qilin bead? Hulinger whispered, Fatty dragon. Gaining a small advantage will do. Know when to stop. If the two of you really fight, you might not be able to defeat that bull. You've eaten fewer spirit pills than the number of fights he's been in with Ba Shan. Be careful or he'll see that you are just strong on the outside. The dragon Qilin shivered with fear. He knew that the bull was a battle maniac like Ba Shan. His speed was faster than his, and his endurance was better as well, so if they really fought, he might not be his opponent. I need to cultivate Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique more. If this bull sees that I'm not his match, he will definitely be coming to beat me up. He executed Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique and trained diligently. Qin Mu saw this and he felt incredibly happy. He said with a smile, I no longer need to worry about Fatty Dragon. He knows how to cultivate by himself. That's right. Bull 2. The green bull hurriedly ran over and said with a smile, Little old master, please speak. Little old master has forgotten. I'm Bull 3. Linger is the big sister. Fatty is Dragon 2 and I'm rank 3rd. However, I'll be able to get rid of the Dragon Qilin soon and be ranked 2nd. Qin Mu smiled. You have the green dragon's bloodline too, right? I have received a technique not long ago that it's even more powerful than Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique. It's the #1 technique I have seen in my life. Since you have the bloodline of the dragon race as well, I shall teach it to you. The green bull was delighted and said while choked with emotions, Little old master is so good to little cow. Little cow has nothing to give in return. I can only pay back little old master's benefaction by offering my life in sacrifice. You saved my life in the Golden Palace and I still have yet to thank you. How can this little thing be worth anything? Qin Mu said with a smile. He went through Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique, and not only was the green bull was enthralled, but even Butcher, Granny C, Blind, and the rest were intoxicated. Great technique! Butcher let out a shaky breath and said solemnly, A god technique that has never been seen before. Muir, this should be a technique that could reach Numinous Sky Hall of the Celestial Palaces and ascend to the Emperor's throne, right? An intense sense of danger grew in the Dragon Qilin's heart, and he cursed silently to himself. How will it be good once this damned bull learns Ancestral Dragon Supreme Mystery Technique? Won't he be able to beat me to death? That can't be. I need to cultivate, and I also need to eat more Water Element Divine Vitality pills.